I would like to call to order the regular city council meetings, and time is now 6:34 p.m. City Clerk Duarte, will you please take roll?
Yes, Mayor. Councilmember Frometa,
Present.
Councilmember LaPlante,
Present.
Councilmember Trujillo,
Present.
Mayor Pro Tem Alvarez,
Present.
and Mayor Pacheco.
Present. I would now like to have Councilmember Frometa do the invocation for us.
Yes, if we can please stand. Okay, if we can please bow our heads. Thank you, Heavenly Father, for your goodness, and thank you for bringing us to this council chambers once again. Thank you for the blessing that you bestow upon each of us and our families. We thank you tonight for this city. We thank you for the leadership of this city. We thank you, Lord, for the council members representing our constituents. And we thank you for the work and commitment of our fire department and our police department. Lord, as we come together to conduct the business of the city, I pray that you would give us your wisdom and your direction as we make decisions. And that you would continue, Lord, to watch over the great city of Downey. In your name we pray. Amen.
I would now like to have Councilmember LaPlante lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance.
Please join me in the salute to our nation's flag. I pledge
allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you all, and welcome to tonight's council meeting. We will start off our council meeting with city council member announcements, requests for future agenda items, conference and meeting reports, and I will start to my immediate far left with Councilmember Trujillo.
Good evening, everyone, and welcome to your City Hall. Announcements, I want to wish everyone a belated Father's Day. I think very often fathers get overlooked in all the work we do in raising our kids. I want to recognize all the fathers out there in Downey. I had the opportunity to attend our solar panel ribbon cutting. It's great to see that we are moving forward with becoming environmentally conscious. These solar panels will not only save us money in terms of utilities, but will help us maintain, or at least try to obtain, cleaner air. I had the opportunity to attend the skate day. We do have a skate park in Downey. It's located inside Independence Park. You'll find me there frequently from 3 to 5 with my 12-year-olds. And it's great to see this event that apparently has been going on for years. It was very well attended. So congratulations to Park and Rec on a great event at Skate Park. And I had the opportunity to attend the NALEO annual conference in Chicago. NALEO is the National Association of Latino Elected Officials. Very informative sessions, particularly around the environment, voters' rights, social justice equities issues. So thank you for allowing me the opportunity to attend and represent the city. And congratulations to our colleague, Councilwoman Frometa. She is actually on the board of this nationally known organization. Very well-attended conference, very organized. Thank you. In terms of future agenda items, I would like an update on the status of the Stonewood Mall renovation. What's going on? I know that when Mr. Schindler was still here, we talked about possible designs that were being submitted. So if we could just have an update that we can give out to the public. We did get some emails this week about the status or them desiring that the mall get some attention. It really hasn't, it's really been the same since I've been here, which is 33 years this week. And I think it's time for them to pay some attention to the mall. It'd be great if we could attract maybe Zara clothing company. I don't know if somebody has contact with the mall, but I think that would help elevate the status of our mall in comparison to Cerritos. I would like the staff to look into turning the Sister Cities organization into a commission. We've tried for months to try to recruit people to attend, and it's just not happening. So I would like the council to consider making Sister Cities a commission so the staff could present on what the options are for the council to consider. Should we make it a commission? What are the pros and cons? I've been getting some concerns about Camp Downey, and it really comes down to, I think, staffing, and we've maxed out our spots, right, Jason? We have a waiting list of 20 to 40 people for every week from now until August 12th, which is the last week of summer. Our kids go back to school August 17th. We should consider perhaps expanding the program. It looks like it's very successful, and our parents need it, right? Many of our working parents. So if we could look into expanding Camp Downey for next year. Getting several complaints about parking on Telegraph. I've reached out to the chief. I apologize for continually reaching out. I should say, look, if you're a resident out there and there's a parking concern, we recommend that the first course of action you take is call our non-emergency police line. And you don't need to reach out to me directly, because then what I turn around is I contact the chief, right? So you really can, and they'll document who's calling to report what traffic situation we're talking about. And here we're talking about Telegraph Boulevard during the busy hours. We hear you. We're having our traffic detail look into that. Thank you very much for that. And the last thing is taco stands after hours. I think some people have figured out that our code enforcement perhaps goes home at 5 o'clock. And look, this is one of those things where you don't want to use police resources, right, to crack down on taco stands. And California has made it easier if you are a street vendor, and we're going to work on this, on facilitating and streamlining the process. If you want to sell your goods here in our streets, you're welcome to apply for a permit, but we're not going to accept you setting up stands just anywhere you want. That's just not going to happen in the city. I'm against it. Unless you're licensed, I don't want to see your canopy on our sidewalks and you deciding to sell your tacos, as good as they may be. Again, I want to make it clear. You are welcome to apply for a permit and do it the right way, but it's not fair to other small business owners who submit their plans, who submit the request for permits and pay their taxes for people to just set up. I understand, capitalism in America, but I don't want to see taco stands that are unpermitted. So if we could look into that and start cracking down on them. But there's got to be a system, because if we allow one or two to come in, then we're going to have a whole bunch of them and become something that we don't want to be. So if we could look into that, please. Thank you. And that concludes my comments, Madam Mayor.
Thank you. Next up, we have Councilmember Fermetta.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Good evening, everybody. It is always a pleasure to come together and see our community join us. I think civic engagement is important in our community. I always say, engaged communities are strong communities. I want to welcome a couple of people in the audience. Certainly, Ivan Sulik from Supervisor Janice Hahn's office. Thank you for joining us this evening. And for those of you watching us via YouTube and via Zoom, thank you for joining us tonight. A couple of events that I attended since we last met. Again, it was such a delight to be part of the ribbon cutting for our solar panels. And again, as the 10th largest city, based on the last census, the 10th largest city in the county of Los Angeles, Downey continues to move forward with great advances. And in this one in particular, I think as my council colleague mentioned, really we look at environmental sustainability and reducing our carbon footprint. And that is important. As you drive around our city and you look at our city facilities, you will see these solar canopies that have been erected, really at no cost to us and at a significant savings, $10 million over the next 20 years. And again, when we talk about the savings that these type of projects bring to our city, I want to highlight the leadership and the foresight that our city manager, Gilbert Livas, and the staff had in bringing this project to fruition. All of us, as you know, as we rotate the mayoral seat, we have an opportunity as mayors to push forward certain projects as our goals. And I want to thank my council colleagues for also supporting this project as it's been important for all of us. I also attended the LA Centers for Drug and Alcohol Abuse, LA CADA. It's a 50th anniversary. And this is important because this center has our nearest location is in our neighboring city of Santa Fe Springs, and this center provides resources, vital resources and assistance to community members and individuals suffering from alcohol and drug abuse, and as well as our youth and mental health resources. I had that pleasure. As my colleague stated, I too attended the 39th annual NALEO conference. And I want to share with those of you in the audience, but also those of you watching us, the National Association of Latino Elected and Appointed Officials. One of the goals of this organization, it is a nonpartisan organization. Currently, there are a little bit over 7,000 Latino elected officials across the country. And as we continue to move our country forward, our goal, and I am grateful to be part of the organization's executive board as a secretary this year. One of our goals is for us electeds from both sides of the aisle, Republican and Democrat, and independent and beyond, to really come together and put our country first and move initiatives forward. So it was a really great conference. Close to 1,000 attendees from across the country came together. And we also had the pleasure of welcoming the Vice President of the United States, Vice President Madam Kamala Harris. Once again, we continue to live divisive and politically difficult times, but we need to, as individuals and as electeds, look at ways to come together and work for the betterment of our communities, regardless of party affiliation. And the various workshops and conference items that were discussed really looked at how to increase our civic engagement of our communities, as well as carrying new policies forward, having to do with from environmental sustainability to ethics and good governance. And I think that we can all be proud of. A couple of things that I would like staff to look into. And first, I want to thank Vania Rojas, assistant to the city manager. Thank you, Vania, for the work and the update you provided regarding the Bennett campaign. At the last meeting, I mentioned to you, I was becoming concerned with excessive trash around many of our shopping centers and strip malls, and some areas within our city that are the responsibility of those of the property owners in those areas not being well kept. And we are continuing to increase, augment our social media presence, and really reach out to also the property owners at the different strip malls to ensure that the areas are representative of what Downey is, a clean city. We will continue with those campaigns, and we will continue to engage those property owners. So if we can continue to do that, staff, I greatly appreciate it. Also, in regards to our speeding, and I know we all look at throughout our streets, there isn't a day where one of resident doesn't call me or email me regarding speed enforcement, regarding safety throughout our main thoroughfares. And I just want to continue to thank law enforcement Chief Murray and your department for the hard work you do in that arena. I know we need to continue to monitor those main thoroughfares and perhaps some of those smaller streets that can have long stretches of without a stop sign or without a stoplight. Look at installing perhaps signs that get the speed of the vehicles traveling. But certainly additional speed enforcement will be asked and is necessary. Madam Mayor, that concludes my comments. Before, I just want to wish everybody a happy 4th of July on Monday. Please be safe. And also remember that as many families enjoy fireworks, we will continue to crack down on illegal fireworks, and we need to make sure that we are sensitive to our veterans or any individuals that may have PTSD as a result of, again, those fireworks, as well as furry pets. Please bring them indoors on Monday if there is additional activity in your neighborhoods. But I know our fire chief will be having his department crack down on those illegal fireworks. Any particular activities that will be happening for Monday, Chief Murray or Chief Herlock? Any additional enforcement?
So the police department will have additional patrols out there the day of and the days prior to. We've made lots of educational efforts with our posting of our municipal codes related to illegal fireworks and illegal setting of safe and sane fireworks, which are limited to only the 4th of July. So we will have extra eyes and ears out there addressing those issues, and we're working in collaboration with the fire department on those efforts.
Thank you. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Thank you. Next up, we have Councilmember LaPlante.
Thank you. Pleased to have attended the solar project dedication. That's a great tribute to staff and particularly to Mr. Livas for the foresight and getting those put in the various places, saving money and reducing our carbon footprint. I was also pleased to attend the retirement events for Mr. Livas. The Golden Park event was basically employees, and the Rio Hondo event was for community and colleagues and other staff. So we appreciate your work, and I was pleased to attend those. On Monday, I had the opportunity with the fire chief to tour fire station number 1, and because the lovely tenants down in South Rancho decided to have a fire on Sunday night, I was able to join him down there also and look around and see how the fire department works in action and how ladder trucks work when they're actually having to go out and do work, and I appreciate the time and effort of the fire department and all the efforts they do to keep us safe and the good interagency cooperation. I know we had fire support from the county, Compton, and Santa Fe Springs at that fire, and the county also provided some resources later to knock down the building that was falling apart at that point. I would like to follow up on a couple of items. I don't believe we have the dedication plaques yet for the fire stations, and there's a plaque that somewhere should be near or around the firefighter memorial. If we can figure out where those have wound up at over the time. I know we have all the dedication plaques up for the various other facilities that were renovated during Prop S, but apparently the fire stations don't have them, or at least I don't know where they were. At least there wasn't one in Station 1, because we toured that whole station. So. And I know we're doing our best, but I wish we could figure out a way to get Station 4 renovated faster and fixed up after the problems we had there. I know that there are problems with trying to deal with the bureaucracy that was required with bids and this and that, and I just wish we could find a way to make it faster. I understand that we have to go out and get bids, and it takes a while to do all of that. And Mr. Livas?
Yeah, Councilmember LaPlante, we're actually working on that. Mr. Delfino is in the process of doing that. One of the reasons for the delay had to do with our insurance carrier. So we had to go through that process. We had to make sure that they were involved in that process. We had to do an investigation in terms of what caused the fire, so that's why it's taking a little longer than we'd like to. But Mr. Delfino's ensured us that we're well on the way now.
What a shock. An insurance company is slowing things down. My comment on the fireworks is our police department, our fire department is doing what they can do. In fact, the police and fire departments throughout LA County and Orange County, and take your pick, is doing what they can do. But when people can go either out of the country or to other states and buy all of this stuff legally, especially other states, there is no fire department at the border that says, ooh, you can't bring those, we're confiscating them. Anybody wants to come by my corner, you can sit out on the front lawn with me and watch a heck of a fireworks show going on in Southgate, Linwood, Downey, take your pick. And none of it's legal. We all know that. But until there's something happens in a larger sense than just Downey or California, it doesn't matter, because people can drive to Wyoming and buy anything they want, and they do. And I'll go with my holiday greeting. On Friday, happy fiscal new year, everybody.
That's original.
And hey, there. I know cities and school districts that throw parties on July 1st. And I just want to a brief remembrance memorialize Vidal Paris Karachi, the Mayor Pro Tem of the City of Duarte and a 21-year council member, lost her battle to cancer over the weekend, and I know we will be adjourning in her memory, but I just wanted to, having worked with her when I was a teacher in Duarte, that's a loss for all of the people involved in community service and city government. She was a one of a kind and a great person. Thank you.
Thank you. Next up, we have Mayor Pro Tem Alvarez.
Good evening, everyone. Welcome. This past weekend, I had the opportunity to attend the National Association of Latino Elected Officials conference in Chicago. I had the chance to speak with many other Latino leaders around the country and learn about how we can do better. Sometimes what happens nationally really affects our community. That is why I want to comment on the Supreme Court's overturning of Roe v. Wade. As a survivor of abuse, I know that this is a significant attack on the lives of all women, and especially on the Downey constituents who are women, especially young women. The fact is that we live in a society that respects women less than a man. Women earn less money than men for doing the same work. Women of color make even less. Raising a child is very difficult for women, especially single women of color like me. This is why I always fight to support low-income families, especially women facing evictions and women workers in the fields. Nurses, mothers, and all women deserve respect. The Supreme Court decision is an attack on all women, especially the low-income women of color here in our community. Abortion is healthcare, and women deserve to be respected. We have the right to choose what to do with our bodies. Now we have to fight to win back our rights. I look forward to working with community groups to empower women, especially those who would like to have children but who cannot. We women deserve the right to decide what to do with our bodies. To the activists, don't give up. Let's work together and we win back our reproductive rights. Thank you, Mayor. That concludes my comment.
Thank you. Thank you, and again, thank you all for attending our council meeting this evening, this special meeting as we say goodbye to our city manager. But before we get to that, I just wanted to mention a couple of events. Actually, before I even get there, I do want to acknowledge Christopher Perez from Congresswoman Lucille Roybal Allard's office. And now, events that I attended. I had the pleasure of also attending the Alicata's 50th anniversary celebration. And I also had the pleasure of attending Mr. Gilbert Livas' retirement dinner last week as well. In addition to that, I attended the NALEO conference. And as mentioned, NALEO stands for National Association of Latino Elected and Appointed Officials. It's officials throughout the U.S. that participate. One of the themes that I liked about the conference was about the mental health for elected officials. Many times, elected officials, and even just people in general, we tend to work ourselves. We're attached to our phones. We feel the urgency of responding to every single email, even on Saturdays and Sundays. And sometimes we neglect our families. And so it's important to make sure that during our off time that we disconnect occasionally from our phones and we spend that much needed time with our loved ones and our families. And just to take a moment and take a breather and just enjoy life. And so it's something that many of us, we neglect, not just elected officials, but many of us, we neglect to actually take care of ourselves. So I encourage you, all of you, please make sure and find time to spend time with your loved ones, especially this 4th of July weekend. If you can, I know some of you cannot because you have to work, but try to find some moment with your loved ones. One of the sessions I also enjoyed with the NALEO conference is we learned self-defense techniques. So it was a really good session. And as elected officials and even staff, we have to sometimes deal with situations, and sometimes we just need to get away from these difficult situations. It's not about fighting back. It's about getting away in a safe manner. And I did find that there is a self-defense program for elected officials and for staff. They're based out of Culver City. I don't know if it makes sense for them to come to Downey, but I thought it was really good. And I have the information, so I can always provide it to staff so that we can possibly look into it, especially for our staff who sometimes they find themselves in difficult situations. So I just want to say the conference was amazing, so thank you. And congratulations to Councilmember from Meta for getting on this prestigious board. It is a board with very prestigious individuals, so thank you for your involvement in the NALEO. Also wanted to mention some upcoming events. Tomorrow, the Downey Chamber of Commerce is having their installation and luncheon at the Embassy Suites. And then, in case you weren't aware, we have concerts in the park at Furman Park every Wednesday. So come out, enjoy some time with the family, and I guess disconnect from your phones if you can, but enjoy time with your family Wednesday evenings over at Furman Park. Also wanted to touch upon speeding. I did get a complaint from a resident. This is for our police chief. The resident lives in the vicinity of Brock in Lindora near Imperial and Paramount. She was complaining about speeding. Maybe we could install speed readers if possible, because I know it is a smaller street. This resident did tell me that when speed readers or the signs were installed, she did notice that people did slow down a little bit. So I don't know if maybe we could utilize something like that, but she has been experiencing speeding in that area. And I can always provide you with her exact address later if you want.
Okay, we do have our radar trailers that we can place there.
Okay, perfect. Okay, and that concludes my comments, and we do have a special presentation today. So I thank you again all for being here, and I'm going to go down and provide this special presentation. Okay, thank you. So today we have a special presentation. Before providing my presentation, I would like to invite up Christopher Perez from the office of Congresswoman Lucille Royba Allard to do his presentation.
Good evening, everyone. Mayor, members of the council, members of the audience, and everyone watching at home. It is an honor to be here on behalf of the office of Congresswoman Lucille Royba Allard, representing California's 40th Congressional District, on a momentous day where we celebrate and thank outgoing City Manager Gilbert Livas, and thank you for your many years of dedicated service to the City of Downey. I'm here to present you this certificate of congressional recognition, which reads, in honor of your retirement and in appreciation of your 14 years of outstanding commitment and dedicated service to the City of Downey and its residents, thank you and congratulations. And we truly, truly not only thank you for your exemplary leadership, not only in the City of Downey, but throughout the Southeast, but for transforming Downey into the beautiful and vibrant city it is today. Although it is sad to see you go, we're overjoyed to see you enjoy this new stage in your life, and we wish you the very best. So here you go.
I would now like to invite up Ivan Sulik from Supervisor Janice Hahn's office.
We will soon. I'll let you be the first one there. Well, good evening, everyone. Madam Mayor, members of the City Council, Mr. City Manager, Mr. Livas, and everyone here. It's a pleasure to be here representing Supervisor Janice Hahn. My name is Ivan Sulik. I'm a proud resident of Downey, and I just want to thank Mr. Livas for his many years of service in really transforming Downey and making it the city that it is. You know, being a field deputy, I get assigned many cities to represent for the supervisor. I get to meet different city managers with different styles, different personalities, and I remember back in 2017, meeting with, at that time, Mayor Alex Saab. And right before meeting with City Manager Livas, and he said, you know, you need to meet our city manager. He's a little mean, but don't worry, you know, everything will be fine. And I had a chance to meet Mr. Livas, and Alex was totally wrong. Mr. Livas really is a compassionate and hardworking individual that really took this ship, and while there was many bumps and storms, drove it to really some good prosperity. And that's what caused me, a young professional, to move to Downey because of the way this beautiful community was. So on behalf of the 10 million residents of the city of the County of Los Angeles, it gives me great pleasure to present this commendation to you, Mr. Gilbert Livas, for your many years of service to the city of Downey. So congratulations and thank you.
By any chance, do we have Tony Perez here? No. Anybody? No. Okay. Yes. I have here a certificate from the senator's office, Bob Archuleta. The certificate reads as follows: in recognition of more than 25 years of dedicated public service, with 15 years with the City of Downey and the last 11 years as its city manager, you have provided guidance and a strong sense of community to create a high quality of life for the residents. You demonstrated a belief that the people living and working in the city of Downey would benefit from insightful, innovative, and creative leadership. Your career has included a commitment to making difficult decisions while striving to find the best solution to benefit the community. On behalf of the 32nd Senate District of the state of California, I congratulate you on a job well done and wish you a happy retirement. Signed June 23rd, 2022, by Senator Bob Archuleta. And I also have here from Downey Unified School District, Board of Education honors Gilbert Livas with appreciation for 14 years of dedicated service to Downey Unified students and the Downey community. Signed June 28, 2022. So again, thank you all for joining us this evening. A little bit about Mr. Gilbert Livas. He joined the city, well, actually, I have my notes over here. Okay, a little bit about Mr. Gilbert Livas. Mr. Livas has over 25 years of experience in the field of community development and has worked for both the private and public sector. Mr. Livas worked as a community development director for the City of Bell Gardens and the City of Downey. He was also a founding partner in the firm of Schober Livas Consulting, a firm specializing in providing relocation services to local government agencies. Over the years, his focus of experience has been the development of commercial and residential projects through public-private joint ventures. Mr. Livas received his BA from UCLA, great school, attended the Lyndon B. Johnson School of Public Affairs at the University of Texas, Austin, and earned his master's degree in public administration from Cal State University, Long Beach. He is a very experienced individual, and Downey was lucky to have him as a city manager. He served our city with integrity and compassion, and his legacy will live on here in the city of Downey. You will see his legacy driving around in the city. You will see his legacy from Portos to the Downey Promenade and everything you see, all the development that you see here in the city of Downey. And he has served our city with compassion and with so much knowledge and integrity. And he started working here in the city as city manager during a difficult time, during the recession. And now he's completing his years of service through a global pandemic. And so I know he is retiring today, and I know we will continue speaking because we always made it a point to speak every day, especially at the onset of the pandemic. He is a person that cares, and even though he leaves Downey, and I shouldn't say leaves, because I know he'll come back every once in a while, but even though he retires from the city of Downey, I know he will miss us all. But most importantly, we all will miss him here. And I will especially miss you because you have touched the lives of so many people, from staff, who you can actually look, to the people here in the city of Downey. So I just want to say thank you, my friend, for all that you've done in our city. And again, I'm not saying goodbye because I know we will see each other. So I have here a city tile, and I also have a proclamation. I will now go ahead and read that proclamation. Whereas Mr. Gilbert A. Livas joined the City of Downey in 2007 as Deputy City Manager, Community Development Director, and in 2010 was promoted to Assistant City Manager. And whereas in December 2011, Mr. Livas was appointed as Downey's 7th City Manager, serving in the role for over 10 years. And whereas Mr. Livas led the City of Downey to 10 consecutive years of award-winning balanced budgets and maintained prudent financial practices. And whereas Mr. Livas improved the efficiencies of the city operations, providing a higher levels of convenience and customer service to residents, while realizing an annual budgetary savings. And whereas Mr. Livas was instrumental in the development and revitalization of medical and commercial centers with the attraction of $100 million in industry investment, cementing Downey as a key destination for visitors across the region. And whereas Mr. Livas facilitated multiple affordable housing projects, including the Downey View Apartments, the Veteran Supportive Housing Project, and Habitat for Humanity townhomes, ensuring that all residents had a place to call home. And whereas Mr. Livas ushered the city through its most robust capital improvement programs with $30 million in residential street repairs, rehabbing 584,100 linear feet of streets and $67 million in neighborhood improvements, building 4 new fire stations, renovating 7 city parks, a city library, a civic theater, and securing 10 new police officers. And whereas Mr. Livas successfully navigated the Downey community through the Great Recession in 2012 and a global pandemic in 2020, providing much-needed high-quality community programs and services to residents and businesses. And whereas Mr. Livas remained on the forefront of environmental sustainability, as seen with the planting of over 4,380 trees and the installation of solar panels, saving the city millions and reducing greenhouse gas and carbon emissions. And whereas Mr. Livas expanded the arts in Downey through popular community events and various art installation pieces. And whereas Mr. Livas announced his retirement as a city manager of Downey effective July 1st, 2022. And whereas his nearly 15 years at Downey demonstrated an unwavering commitment to integrity, ethics, and public service, driven by a passion for community building and sustainability, civic engagement, and innovation to transform and improve the quality of life for the Downey community. Now, therefore, be it resolved that I, Blanca Pacheco, Mayor of the City of Downey, on behalf of the City Council, the city employees, and the citizens of Downey, do hereby express to Gilbert A. Livas my sincere appreciation for his loyal and distinguished public service as city manager, and making Downey a great place to live, work, and play for nearly 15 years. Adopted this 28th day of the month of June in the year 2022. That was long.
Is everybody still awake after all of that? Gosh. Thank you.
So let's take a picture. Now, before Mr. Livas speaks, I would like to invite down to the podium Councilmember Claudia Fermetta to also say a couple words.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. It is my pleasure tonight to say a few words about Gil. Gil, as you've heard, ascended as Downey City Manager during the Great Recession and now leaves us after leading us through a historic pandemic. Over the last 15 years, nearly 15 years, Gil has helped us navigate through the most challenging of times, and with that, contributed to 10 balanced budgets over the last decade. Under his leadership, Downey saw countless economic developments come to fruition. Those of you that have been in Downey for the past 15 years have seen the growth and the development of this city. And it is because of Gil's leadership. We've had good councils, but certainly it has been his steady, unbiased, and uncorrupted leadership that contributed significantly to the growth and the innovation in our city. Gil is an outstanding leader who has inspired those that worked for him, worked with him, and in this community. Gil leaves a legacy of integrity and an incomparable commitment to public service and excellence. I will miss him. I will miss you. I consider him a friend, and I know that the past several years, this city and the residents benefited greatly because of his leadership. Gil, on behalf of our Downey residents, I thank you. I thank you for always providing us that steady guidance and that steady leadership. And on behalf of our Downey residents, I thank you and I wish you the very best on this well-deserved retirement. God bless you.
Now, Mr. Gilbert Livas, it's all yours.
I promise I will keep it brief and short. This is like the long goodbye. I've been here for the last 6 months or so saying goodbye to folks, but fortunately I had the opportunity to have a farewell by the city and the staff, and I certainly appreciate that. Herman, if you could just allow me just a bit of courtesy, I'd really appreciate it. Thank you. I want to say that I also had the opportunity to have a dinner that was hosted by my family, and I really appreciate that. It was a great opportunity for me to say farewell. So I've said a lot of the goodbyes. I've thanked everybody that I needed to thank. But really at this time, I really also want to thank the residents of the city for bestowing this honor and privilege of me to serve. You know, Downey is an inspirational and aspirational community. People come here because they want to be here. People come here with energy to do things that they can't do in other places. The people, the residents in this town live up to the city's motto of Future Unlimited, and they really commit to it. It's the energy that is the magic sauce that makes Downey a great place. And I will always, always be grateful for the opportunity to serve you. It's been the highlight of my career in my life. I also want to say thank you to the staff that is here. Great department heads. I've had the pleasure of working with people that are committed to public service like no other city I've ever worked for. In 28 years, they've done a phenomenal job. And you've heard both council members talk about the Great Recession and the pandemic, but I couldn't, and we couldn't have gotten through that process without a great staff that continues to make the city hum along. Its 800 part-time and full-time employees are committed to doing the work with dignity and respect that you, the residents, deserve. Downey is the shining light of the Southeast because of the residents and the people that are here. Now, that's just not me saying, that's you, the residents, saying. I will tell you that one of the things that is remarkable is that the support that the residents and the trust and the faith they have in their local government. And I'm not talking about some survey monkey that was done. I'm talking about a scientific study that was done that showed that the Downey residents had an 84% approval rate of their local government, which is phenomenal, and over 90% in their public safety, which just says a lot about the trust that people have in this community and about the residents' ability to know that things will get done in Downey like no other place. And that's why people move here. They move here because it's the safe neighborhoods and the great schools and it's a place that people can raise a family in a dignified way. So thank you to the residents for allowing me that privilege to serve. I also want to also thank the council members, past and present, for giving me that opportunity. I've had the pleasure to work with some great council members, but I do want to specifically thank Mr. Brosmer, Mr. Guerra, Mr. Saab, and Mr. Rodriguez for allowing me to serve along them at very, very difficult times in my career. But the truth is that nobody ever gets to a station in life without the help of somebody else, right? We stand on the shoulders of other folks. And in my particular case, I've had great family. I've had the ability of and support of residents and people throughout this illustrious, 11 years as city manager. But one person that I need to thank because is my wife. She served for 28 years alongside me. So, Hetty, come on up. So, she's been with me through this whole time, through, being a city manager sometimes is a very difficult thing. It's also something that is tremendously gratifying, but I will tell you there are times when, you get those calls late at night, there's, a fire, there's a shooting, something goes on and it wakes you up and wakes up the whole household. There are times when you want to be present, right, for your kids. And I remember clearly one specific time, my kid was having a soccer game. I'm watching him, trying to watch him, and I'm on the phone walking the field. This was when Downey Medical was about to go out. And I was trying to get PIH into Downey and trying to negotiate a deal for PIH to make sure that we saved a hospital in town. And I was on that phone negotiating to get PIH in here, but not paying attention to my kid's game. Those are the kinds of things that we do. They're lost moments, but certainly important moments. And like those, there are many, unfortunately, throughout our career. But I wanted to have her up here because, public service is not just us, it's both of us. So this is from the retirement dinner my family threw me just the other day. It's just an excerpt from it. So it says 28 years of service together. It says, although I am proud to have been a city manager, the title I'm most proud of is Dad. I thank you, my wife of 32 years, for bestowing that honor on me and giving me two fantastic children, Gabriel and Anissa, who I am extremely proud of and love immensely. You don't always get the credit you deserve, but you have been with me through thick and thin, all the ups and downs, and I always will appreciate and love you for that. And I wouldn't be the man I am today without you. Thank you. Thank you, and I wish you all well. The city is in good hands, and Mr. Mark Scott will be, taking over the reins. It's been the honor of my life. Thank you.
We will now take a 5-minute recess.
Love you, Gilbert. Good job, man. It's time to go.
We will now reconvene our city council meeting. We have two public hearing items. The first one, adjust city's uniform schedule of fees. Adopt a resolution of the City Council of the City of Downey adjusting the city's uniform schedule of fees. The hour having arrived, the public hearing is now open. The time is 7:39 p.m. City Clerk Duarte, do we have proof of publication?
Yes, Mayor, we do.
Can I have a motion, a second, to receive and file the publication?
So moved.
Second.
Please vote.
Did you?
Is loading.
The motion is approved unanimously.
Interim City Manager Scott, is there a staff report?
There is.
Hi, Vania.
City Manager Scott. Good evening, Madam Mayor, members of the City Council.
You need to turn on the.
As done in previous budget cycles,
Now, I think now it is.
Microphone's on.
as done as part of previous budget cycles, tonight staff brings before you the proposed fiscal year 2022-2023 city user fee schedule, which is listed as Exhibit A in your report. Fees not set by state regulations and that do not currently achieve full cost recovery were increased according to the CPI. And just way of background, in 2019, the City Council had approved to increase the user fee schedule annually by the CPI as part of the budget process. Those fees are indicated in yellow in the fee schedule. These fees changes account for majority of the changes to the fee schedule. Fees increases were rounded up or down if they were greater than 50 cents, respectively. However, there were an exemption in the Community Development Department Building and Safety section where fees were increased by the actual dollar amount. And also, as a part of background information, the 100% cost recovery amount for each fee was determined by a third-party consultant, Matrix Consulting Group, as part of a 2016 study. Other changes to the fee schedule are as follows. Fees under the Cumberland Memorial Space Center were adjusted to previous fees. As the Space Center continues to recover from the COVID-19 pandemic, particularly in regards to facility rentals and party packages, setting fees to the previous fee rates will help the Space Center attract new and returning patrons to the center. These fees are highlighted in purple on the fee schedule. Fees under the theater were adjusted to current reimbursable fees for venue tech staffing, and this is set by market value for the industry. These are indicated as a blue on the fee schedule. Further, city staff is reporting to add 22 fees to the fee schedule in order to recover costs related to services that we continually do but are not previously stated on the fee schedule. These fees are highlighted in green on the fee schedule. Lastly, there were a few fees that were no longer being provided, and these are now noted as red on the ski schedule that we'll be removing. As an example, would be the Aspire program that we no longer have. Also, as note, we did want to make a few corrections that were on the fee schedule. Those corrections were provided to the City Council and were listed on the back for the public for their reference. The corrections are as follows. For the fire department, special requested fire flow test, standby service, fire sprinkler system fees on page 2. High piled storage, height works operations, fire alarm systems on page 3. Inspection service fee on page 13. Related to plumbing and building safety, release of impound vehicles for police department on page 14, and lastly, photocopying fees for the public works department, which is on page 15. These fees were initially stated that they were increasing by the CPI, but they were actually already at cost recovery, so they will not be increasing, they will be staying at their current fees. So we wanted to make those as a note for correction. That concludes staff's report, and staff is available for any questions that you may have.
Madam Mayor, I do have a question.
Yes.
Vania, can you tell me again the ones highlighted in yellow?
Those are the ones increasing by the CPI.
Okay. And the ones in green?
Those are the new fees, the 22 fees that are being added to the fee schedule.
Got it.
Are
And
there
I can
any
be
other,
more specific on those if need be.
are there any other questions? Okay, thank you. I will now open this item for public comment. City Clerk Duarte, have you received any written correspondence to be read into the record?
Yes, Mayor, we have. The first correspondence is from Wayne Spindler. I oppose this bullshit. Your fucking fees, bah, are too fucking sky high. Humans need money for gas so they can help finance more foreign enemy dictators that hate the U.S. Say no to this crap and remand this item to committee. That is all, Mayor.
Thank you. Members of the public wishing to address the City Council regarding public hearing item may now come forward and form a line. I remind speakers that you have 3 minutes to address the council.
Yes. So, ladies and gentlemen, I believe the first speaker on his public comment has identified problems regarding schedule fees. And because of such fees that are scheduled during a time of inflation, at a time when dumb 46 president, jackass don't know shit about inflation, is destroying not my life, because mine is fucking good, not destroying some of your fucking lives, but destroying the lives of your future, your
Mr.
children.
Herman, please turn around. That is your first warning.
Oh, so now I'm being targeted because I'm speaking the truth. Thank you. Thank you so much. And I'm going to read it directly out of your item here. Fucking adjust the city's fucking uniform for fucking schedule fees by the fucking administrator, who in sense adopt the fucking resolution to number 22, fucked for so many years, a resolution of the city council of the fuck of city Downey for those fucking adjustments. Thank you, interim city attorney, on the record, 42 U.S.C. 1983. And politely, as I would say, under the color of the authority of law, 242, section, thank you, Mr. Trio, because you are aware of that, 18 U.S.C. 242. You're not going to deprive me the right to speak for my brothers and sisters just because of the color of our skin. We're having a hard time with inflation. We're having a hard time with fees. All these assessment fees all go back to mythology. And that mythology is this: you, the taxpayer, we, the taxpayer, get poked. And in layman terms, fucked. And I don't appreciate when douchebags by the city's uniform schedule of fees doesn't relate the action of truths and continues to deprive you the right to understand their responsibilities to protect your dollars, your cents, your hardworking earnings as a black man, as an Asian man, as a fucked up white man, and any other fucking population of people in this world. 42 U.S.C. 1983, politely, fuck you, Mayor. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Herman.
Oh, here you go, ma'am. I'm submitting this into the record.
I'm sorry, I was told I had 4 minutes, so now it's 3.
So it's 3 minutes in respect to this public hearing item. So it's regarding the schedule of fees. It's not on non.
So this, I'm going to speak on public's, not on items not on the agenda.
Oh, okay,
so.
then you would have 4 minutes, but it would be later on.
Oh, perfect. I'll wait.
Okay, thank you.
Good evening. Schedule of fees, definitely way too many of them. We need fewer regulations, and the fees have grown at a 10% rate of increase. The question tonight is who's going to support a 10% increase in fees to be imposed on the residents of this city? And that's an important thing. Now, some council people went to NALEO, the Latino elected officials conference, which the city, I assume, footed the bill. So maybe that's why we need a 10% increase of the fees in this town, because some tickets cost $800 apiece to go to such a thing, which is nonpartisan is quite a stretch. This is a Democrat Party cult organization that you will not find one workshop that contended that they were going to lower our taxes in any way or reduce our regulations and our fees for businesses. Not one workshop suggested such thing. Not one. And I'm going to try to figure out tonight, because this is going to be an interesting vote. This is a very pivotal vote tonight for this. Who is going to stand up and oppose the increase of these fees at 10%? That even the finance director seems giddy to have. It's always good, you know, we're on the right track. We got more taxes coming in. We got more property taxes coming in. Yes, sales tax is going up, but it's only 10%. Maybe you can get 10.5% out of it next time, if you can get it on the ballot and get people to approve it. So the question is, who's going to stand up and support it tonight? Only one person up here on the council has been questioning anything of where the money has been going. Madam Mayor, I don't think District 3 is going to stand up and oppose these raising of the fees 10%. I don't think the city attorney from West Hollywood is going to stand up and oppose the city fees being raised 10% on the residents. I don't think you're going to stand up and oppose the fees being raised 10%. The city manager, the new city manager, Mr. Scott, we know he's working on getting the hotel tax in place to raise it from 9 to 13%, which this council is employing a group to pay them $125,000 to get it on the ballot to approve such a thing. And District 4 laughed and said it wasn't a personal tax. And District 5, well, we know he's not going to stand up.
Thank you, sir.
Okay, so we're talking again about fee increases. I've probably spoken up against fee increases here probably like 6 times now, and you people never listen. It's very upsetting. Why don't you listen to the people, or why don't you put yourselves in at least like the shoes of the people? Like, why do we have all these huge rate increases and fee increases and tax increases here locally and in the state Senate? Why didn't the mayor come out against higher taxes when she was running? And now she's going to be representing us in the state assembly, and like she's probably going to be pushing for higher fees, because that is indeed, as the other speaker said, there's this myth out there that like the Democratic Party is like for the people, but actually they're for taxes, fees like this. That's actually one of the biggest reasons why, now that we're going to have Robert Garcia be our congressperson, that's very worrisome, because the citizens of Long Beach have been suffering with very high fees, very high taxes. Robert Garcia even said there's never been a tax that he never loved. In fact, he's raised taxes through his measures that have wasted all this money in the same way that you're wasting our money here through these fee increases. Why is it that there's no discussions about putting a fee or a tax, a special fee on how about Kaiser? Kaiser is making off with the people's money, ripping us left and right, and here you're increasing the fees for us, but not for them. Right down the street, you got Coca-Cola exporting the dirty water, the contaminated water. Why is there not a fee for that? Why is there not a fee for the fact that they don't take proactive measures to remove the PFAS? Hey, Coca-Cola, how about for every a bottle of Coke that you sell, how about you give 10 cents back to the city because that's polluted water? Why don't we talk about those potential fees? Oh, right, because the mayor's campaign for assembly was paid by Coca-Cola and by Kaiser. We cannot have these fee increases. Our community is suffering. We have fee increases from Chevron, and Chevron's not paying more taxes. They're paying less. So we don't accept these fee increases for the vast majority here of our community. As the gentleman said, what? The fee increases are going to go to what? So you guys can go to fancy conferences with out-of-touch politicians from both parties. Both parties are totally out of touch and totally corrupt. We don't want that. We want our money in our pockets where it's better used, not with you people. Down with the fees.
Thank you.
Mike Greenspan, the Jew who's not going back to Florida, you Antichrist Catholics. Now, these fees, yes, money must grow on trees, because people seem to have that attitude. You got a supervisor who believes that, in Janice Hahn. If I had known we were raising fees, that it was planned, I would have brought the gloves to pick the money off the trees. There's other, let me expand on a couple of Rudy's points. Chevron could pay more fees. Coca-Cola could pay more fees. Kaiser could pay more fees. And those scab lawyers, like the three that are on the two on the council and the interim city attorney, they could pay more fees too, because they get lots of nice money, buy lots of nice suits. The city of Downey is maybe one of the scab lawyers' personal monopoly boards, like Mr. Trujillo. Why are you taking it out on the people who can least afford to pay it? I mean, let the uppity people, the city managers and those people that make great money, police chiefs, fire chiefs, public works people, finance people, community development, rec and park, put some fees on their paychecks in addition to the taxes. So they can go to these liberal $800 a person conferences. I don't know. That's good money that could be going to the community. They're not going to come up with anything at one of these liberal conferences that are politically correct for a bunch of Mexicans, spending our American dollars on that, when we could be spending it in the community. There must be something terrible about spending it in the community, because you don't want to. You want to waste it on other things. Salaries. What was Gilbert's salary? $348,000 a year. That's the high end. Well, you have to come up with the money somehow when you're doing it. And so you fuck over the people. You have them pay for it. And you tell them it's good for them. And they might even believe you if you tell them enough times how good it is for them, even though there's a hole burning in their pocket. Yes, old dumb Joe, senile Joe, our president, has already helped fuel the inflation. I feel like even though we're a North American country, we have South American style inflation. You used to always read about it. Very, very high percentages. Double digits, sometimes triple digits. Now, what do they say in Israel when they ask how much an item is? Kama ze oleh. It means how much has it gone up? That's its literal meaning. Because of inflation. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hello. Regarding the fee increase, since the all nations are affected by inflations, and it will cause, or I mean, by increasing the fee, who will gonna affect it? You need to think about, as you probably already reviewed all the details, fee increase. I mean, I just came and saw briefly few of them, but there are a lot of increasement on the yellow part. And who are gonna be affected by increasing this fee? Small businesses and those citizens who you need to pay more when they have less of amounts because of this increase of inflations. Severe inflations, they're affecting every one of us. And even though it's just now, we don't see much, even though just point something, not even 1%, but it will affect our life. So please, please check on what is the things that really affecting each one of us. Thank you.
Thank you. Seeing no other speakers, I will now entertain a motion and a second to close public hearing.
So moved.
Is there a second? Okay, so ordered by the mayor. Unless there are any other comments from the council, I will now entertain a motion and a second to adopt the resolution. Is there a motion?
So moved.
Second. Please vote.
The motion is approved unanimously.
Second public hearing, item, confirm lighting and landscaping assessment, District 121 for fiscal year 2022-2023. Adopt a resolution of the City Council of the City of Downey confirming the diagram and assessment and ordering the levy and collection of assessments for the City of Downey Lighting and Landscaping Assessment, District 121 for fiscal year 2022-23, pursuant to the provisions of Part 2 of Division 15 of the California Streets and Highways Code. The hour having arrived, the public hearing is now open. The time is 8:08 p.m. City Clerk Duarte, do we have proof of publication?
Yes, Mayor, we do.
Can I have a motion, a second, to receive and file the publication?
So moved.
Please vote.
The motion is approved unanimously.
Interim City Manager Scott, is there a staff report?
Yes, there is. Did I do that well?
Yes, that was perfect. Delfino will be giving us a staff report. Thank you, Delfino.
Good evening, Mayor Pacheco and City Council. The Citywide Lighting and Landscaping Assessment District was established in 1978 pursuant to the Landscaping and Lighting Act of 1972. Assessments are collected and used to fund maintenance and operations of approximately 6,600 street lights, 117 traffic signals, and 20,000 trees in the city. The assessment district is comprised of 7 zones. Zones 1 through 6 provide funding for maintenance of traffic signals and street lights. Zone L provides funding for tree maintenance, including trimming, removals, and planting of new trees. The 1972 Act specifies the procedures for renewing assessments within a maintenance district. The process consists of 3 steps. The first step was completed in February of this year with Council adopting a resolution ordering preparation of the engineer's report. The second step was completed at the last meeting with Council's preliminary approval of the engineer's report and proposed assessments. The third and final step is to conduct tonight's public hearing. The total operating budget for fiscal year 22-23 is approximately $3.7 million. Total revenues, including assessments, general property taxes, and interest, is approximately $4 million. Projected fund balance at the end of fiscal year 22-23 is approximately $300,000. Currently, the assessment rates for all the zones in the assessment district are at the maximum levels already. Increasing costs for maintenance of streetlights, traffic signals, and tree trimming have resulted in negative fund balances over the past few years. To cover the shortfall in funding, the district has been subsidized by general fund, and in order for the district to operate in a self-sustaining manner, assessment rates for all the zones may have to be increased through a Prop 218 ballot or proceeding. Upon conclusion of tonight's public hearing, Council shall adopt a resolution confirming the assessment diagram and assessment levy as proposed or modified by Council. We have a consultant from Wildan who did the assessment rate study available via Zoom, and I will be available to answer questions too.
Are there any questions?
I do, Madam Mayor. Delfino, thank you for your report. And again, for our residents to really understand what it is we're talking about, the energy costs and, what we're looking here overall. Can you provide a percentage of increase regarding this item?
So for this particular item, we are not increasing any of the rates. The only, you would say, maybe increase would be in Zone 1, where in the past 20 years, the city has not collected any assessments. But for this year, we are proposing to collect the assessment of $21.41 for single-family
And Zone 1 is, once again, just for purposes of making sure that the public understands
So
what we're
Zone
talking
1
about.
is single-family residences.
Now, do we see these changing again next year? The residents will want to know, as inflation and as all the other costs we're seeing around us continue to increase, is this something that we're going to be reevaluating on an annual basis?
So every year, part of the requirements of the 1972 Act, we have to take this item in front of the City Council and conduct a public hearing. So the assessment rates right now are at their maximum levels already. In order for the city to increase those rates, the city would have to conduct a Prop 218 ballot, where I believe 2/3 of the voters or the residents would have to vote for the rate increase.
Thank you, Delfina. Just want to make sure, as we have reviewed these public hearings, that we explain it in a more simplified manner for our residents, because there's a lot of information sometimes and we may miss something. So we want to make sure that our residents are well aware and well informed of what we are discussing here.
And I also had an additional question, just following up with Councilmember Fermetta. So you mentioned for Zone 1, it would be increased to $21.41. What was the previous amount?
So we haven't been collecting for the last 20 years.
Okay.
So, yeah, 0.
Okay.
Why not? Why have we not been collecting the last 20 years?
So that has been the decision of the City Council for the last 20 years, where assessments have not been collected.
So Delfino, if I own a house at approximately, hypothetically speaking, $700,000, let's say in Downey, am I now going to see a $21 increase on my taxes? And they'll split that up, right? $10.50 and $10.50 if I make 2 payments?
So, yeah, so it depends on the number of dwelling units. So per dwelling unit, it's $21.41. It's not based on property value, although there are some properties that are still assessed with ad valorem taxes.
Okay.
Which is separate from this. It's not part of this assessment.
Are you recommending this? I mean, I'm put in a situation where other council members have not been, putting forth this assessment. All of a sudden, we're going to $21. Why is this happening now?
So the reason why we're proposing to collect the full assessment is that we have always had a negative balance for this assessment district. And in that case, the general fund is subsidizing the assessment district. In this case, if we collect the assessment, it will now be the assessments that will fund the operations of the district instead of general fund subsidizing it.
And where are the multiple unit? What zone are they?
So they're still part of Zone 1, so it depends on the number of units. If you look at Table 4 on page 6 of the report, Zone 1 is broken down into 1 to 20 units, 21 to 60, 61 to 109 units, 110 to 460 units. So all the residential properties are under Zone 1.
Thank you.
Are there any questions from my council colleagues?
No further questions, Madam Mayor.
Actually, Madam Mayor,
Yes.
Delfino, does this affect residents who are renters? Is that a fair question?
It would be the property owners who will be paying the assessment.
Thank you.
Thank you, Delfino. I will now open this item for public comment. City Clerk Duarte, have we received any written correspondence to be read into the record?
Yes, Mayor, we have. This correspondence is from Wayne Spindler. I oppose this fucking bullshit assessment hidden tax. You 5 fucking thieves could use CARES money for this shit. Humans, need money for gas so they can pay $7 a gallon because they elect you 5 fucking retarded mutants every chance they get. Say no to item 2 and redo a study on it before a city commission. You are fucking Downey taxpayers enough.
Thank you. Members of the public wishing to address the City Council regarding the public hearing item may now come forward and form a line. I remind speakers that you have 3 minutes to address the council.
So we can concur, for the record, that the item read into the record by Wayne Spindler is accurate and true. R1 single families are going to get hard hit with this. And the reason, because they got to raise their rents on you dummies. Because if property tax go up just because of stupid lights, stupid trees, stupid diagram to assess a levy landscape assessment, what the fuck do we need that for? Think about it. What do we need that for right now? This should be shelved and go before a committee or a commission to make a decision based on transparency, everybody. Transparency. But instead, as you can see, your mayor is doing it again to you. Do it to me, baby, is what she's saying. And you are getting it up the ass, right, Mr. Trio? Because to determine these type of expenditures and rates, it affects the renters. Because you are a barren landowner, a monopoly in corruption of owning property, you have to raise your rent in order to pay your property taxes. Because the assessor, dickhead assessor of the County of Los Angeles, no matter what, raises them so many percent based on bonds and grants that you dickhead people continue to say, oh, I appreciate Measure. Oh, I appreciate Measure S. Oh, I appreciate the library that ran over cost into a couple of years of closure. And that's the reason why you people are arrogant, ignorant, belligerent, stupid motherfuckers of this council. Because you don't take into consideration the principle of people that are impacted by this issue. A nigger like me. That's right, Trujillo. A motherfucking faggot like me, Trujillo.
Mr. Herman, please direct your comments to me.
And as I said, fuck the mayor. Because the mayor who's running this city for the time being of her position has fucked it all up. Has fucked it up tremendously. Fucked it up on this side, fucked it up on that side, and as you heard the doors close behind me, has fucked it up. What a fucking bunch of cunts and twats and bitches, fucking up my world that I pay taxes to provide you lights, trees, medians, and a safe place. And as they said straight out of Compton, fuck the police.
I apologize for his foul language. Unfortunately, he has First Amendment rights to express himself in that manner, but I do apologize for his foul language.
Lee Squire, I'm going to follow up on Mario Trujillo's comments and Delfino's. Did I understand you right that the city council decided for 20 years to use the general fund to subsidize Zone 1, if that's correct? And if they did, then why would you be using the general fund to subsidize one assessment area when everybody else has to pay their fair share of that tax? I frankly would like an answer to that question, and I think you would too, would you not, Councilmember Trujillo? Thank you.
So here we are. Okay, what else can we get out of these people in our residencies out here? Let's see. How about I just ask you, what can I give to you? What do you want from me today? What do you want? $50? You want $21? Whatever it takes, right? It's okay. We can get it. We know inflation's supposed to be 10.8%, but you know, gasoline used to be like $2.70 a gallon until the Democrats took over and cut off all our energy pipelines and stuff. Now it's up over $7 a gallon. That's a 200% increase or somewhere around there. That's not 10.8. But anyway, you think you can just keep raising rates and raising taxes and raising fees to collect for your bloated bureaucracy and your fun timing and conferences that you go to, which are just Democrat Party sorries is all they are. Not one time do you offer to lower our taxes and our liabilities of any kind. Why don't you just come out and say you want to get rid of Proposition 13? Just be on record and say you hated it. That would be the best thing for you to do.
Mike Greenspan, the Jew who's not going back to Florida. I'm staying out here, you Antichrist Catholics. Now, the fees. I like to know why all those years in that one district, lighting and landscaping assessment district, the money came out of the general fund. If these fees were around, why didn't you collect them years ago? You had them on the books. Why did all the other districts have to pay except for this one district? Single-family residence homes. Obviously, they can afford to pay for it. Now, the apartment dwellers, it might not be the renter having the fee assessed on him or her, but there's something called a pass-through. The owner of the apartment building gets to pass it through to the renter. So guess who's going to be paying it? The renter, the people that can't afford a house, the people who can't afford a condominium. They're lucky that they pay the rent. Well, it's going up for you folks. And just think, with the November election, Mayor Blanca Pacheco can tell of her accomplishments that she raised taxes in Downey. Isn't that wonderful? I sure hope she gets lots of votes, telling everybody of her wonderful record of raising taxes, along with her other four cronies on the council. They should have, if this fee had been around in that district, it should have been collected years ago. Maybe it wouldn't be suddenly a big jump. It would just be at a steady pace, and they would have collected it all these years, and the fund would not have to drain the general fund. Or else, you up everyone's property tax and get rid of these fees and say one fee handles it all, your property tax. That's what the property tax, or as I learned in Florida, is called the ad valorem tax, should do. Because now you're putting a tax on top of a tax on top of a tax. And what's it accomplishing? Oh, yeah. Another $350,000 to a city manager paycheck, another $800 ticket to go to some Latino event. I mean, if you think I'm going to be rubber stamping all your fees, you're whistling Dixie. So here you go, folks, because your fees, just take them and stick them where the sun doesn't shine. Thank you. Fuck you, too.
Thank you.
All right, so I wanted to pick up, I guess, a little bit on what people have been saying. One thing I noticed that it was kind of not the easiest to follow, but I believe that Mr. Vietnam veteran, Mr. Lee Squire, Mr. Lee Squire oftentimes comes up here and talks about these kind of issues and talks about how there's been this myth that the city council has been fiscally conservative over the last 20 years. As we just saw, apparently they've basically been doing it wrong in violation of the law. So that's what they already were found to have done under the Kessner lawsuit. So this is just probably another instance of that. You guys are conspiring to take our money that you take, even though we are not really represented, right? So we saw in the last vote that everyone who came up here was opposed to this increase in the fees, and now we're talking about the assessments. So people were opposed, but all of you voted for it. So there's no representation. So, it really reminds me of, American history here in Downey schools. They would teach about how, the colonists did this revolution thing because there was taxation without representation, which is what we just saw. You people don't care. You just want to raise the assessments while hiding what you did wrong in the past, which was illegal under your own laws. You're trying to hide that, move, and just kind of hide. And, let's talk through the details later. The public won't really notice. But obviously, it's very clear that you're siphoning this money in the wrong way, and you want to, again, increase the fees, the assessment, because you just don't care about the regular people. You get your nice little stipends, every month, and then you get the free conferences at the fancy hotels in Chicago. No. How about you become better stewards of our money? We don't want these assessments. Mr. Public Works apparently did a bad job. That means Mr. Livas did a bad job. And guess what? Mr. Mark Scott's going to do a bad job too with this, because all they want to do is increase the assessments, increase the fees, increase the taxes. They just don't care about the residents, about anyone that comes into Downey and spends money here. They just want higher sale tax, higher assessments. This is part of their long-term conspiracy to attack us. They don't like us. They just want us to be silent. They hate the fact that there's people in the room. We got Frometa claiming she loves it. In fact, no, she doesn't. The people up there want is silence from us, but no taxation without representation.
Thank you. Seeing no other speakers, I will now entertain a motion and a second to close the public hearing. Is there a second?
Second.
So ordered by the mayor. Are there any other comments or questions from my council colleagues?
I do have a couple of comments, Madam Mayor. And again, in the report, if I may, in the report Delfino provided us, he indicated there's over 6,643 streetlights, and of said total, 2,234 streetlights are owned by the city, 57 are owned by Caltrans, and 33 are shared with other municipalities. And then 4,409 are owned by Southern California Edison Company. Again, as we look at the breakdown of all of these lights, and we also look at the funding for on-street landscaping, maintenance, these are paid from direct assessments under the same act. And so again, as much as I may have an issue not having had this assessment done over the last 20 years, I also realized by reviewing the report that This assessments provides funds for tree trimming and tree removals and tree planting along parkways and medians. We've talked about again and again about Downey being the aspirational city. And we've talked about the type of services that we provide. And as you know, it is unfortunate that as we continue to navigate these challenging financial times, we also have to balance the services that we provide to the residents with the funding. And you know, there is a balance and a cost to living here. It's the fees that were voted on earlier go to really cover the cost of providing many of those services. And as I look at this, I also look at, as we want to continue to maintain and upgrade our districts, money has to come from somewhere. And if we also want to be diligent about providing balanced budgets and a strong public safety with police and fire, it's a real balancing act that we have to do. And so I look at this report and I see as a homeowner, you know, I may not like the additional $21, but at the same time, as we continue to look at the maintenance of our city and in our city's different streets and lighting, this is unfortunately necessary.
Any other questions? Yes.
I have a question. Mr. Scott, is this common for cities to subsidize this assessment? I mean, I'm so shocked to find out that we haven't been doing it for 20 years, and now we're put in the situation of basically being asked to tax our residents. So is this common?
It's very common for cities to have lighting and landscape districts. That is the common approach in California and beyond California. There are cities, very flush cities, that deal with all of their maintenance areas, landscape maintenance areas out of their general fund. But that's the exception to the rule. It's not the common rule. I have no idea what happened in the past that we have a zone that got subsidized, but I appreciate that the staff is recommending something that stops that subsidy. And I will say that the cities that I've gone to in my career that have fallen behind on the process of updating these on a regular basis run into much greater problems than the cities that do it regularly. All we're allowed to do is charge the actual cost, and an annual study engineering report is done to get us as close as possible to what that actual cost is. That report is part of the agenda report. It's available every year. It'll put you to sleep, but it's a very solid, detailed report that shows that we're charging what the actual costs are. So yeah, that's a long answer to your simple question, but it is common to have lighting landscape districts and to try to charge the actual cost.
Can we get a number of exactly how much it would cost the city from the general fund to continue to subsidize this for the next year, 22, 23?
The past practice, I'm sorry, I don't know the history on this. The past practice has been that the one zone got subsidized or the whole city?
It's not just one zone. It's all the zones that have a negative fund balance that was subsidized by general fund. Now, starting with this next fiscal year's budget, if the city council approves collecting the full assessment on zone 1, then there would be no general fund subsidy necessary. It will all be funded by the assessments collected.
I will tell you that in cities where it's not uncommon that zones will fall out of sync and get unbalanced and end up with negative balance. when that happens, cities will typically reduce the services provided to those zones, which creates other nightmare scenarios, as you can imagine, when one area of the city is getting better maintenance than another area. So the better practice is to stay on top of this, and when the required maintenance falls negative, to make adjustments to bring it up to speed.
So if we approve this resolution, how much money are we talking about in if we did not approve this resolution, how much money are we talking about in revenue that we would not be bringing in?
Delfino?
So it's roughly the $21.41 times the, I believe,
the whole budget shows 3
yeah, it will be
million.
times the number of parcels that are in Zone 1.
If we look at page 7, Delfino, the fiscal impact, I see that there's a number of 2,248,322 from direct assessments. Is that the number that we?
So that would be the total assessments collected across the board. So that would be the 7 zones.
Mm-hmm.
So if you look at Zone 1, the 704,000 would be the assessments collected next year if we collect the $21.41. So if the city council decides not to collect that $21, then the subsidy from general fund would be the 704,000.
But then we're providing subsidy to only part of the city and not the rest.
Right. And I see it's also, there's a figure here that I have, again, page 7, under fiscal impact. To pay for the fiscal year 22-23 expenses, it is estimated that the district will use $750,823 in general ad valorem property taxes funds. So is that the number? You said 704,000.
No, the 750,000, that's an ad valorem tax that's charged or assessed on a number of properties in the city. And it's based on the value of the property. That was, I believe that was assessed prior to the 1972 Act.
Right, they're not in the district.
I see, okay.
Mayor, this is Jim McGuire. Can I interject here? I'm with Will Dan, who did the engineer's report.
Who is this?
Who is that?
Oh.
Oh, yeah.
I was confused too.
Yeah, if that's okay, Mayor, we could ask them
Yes,
to
please.
comment. Is he on
Will
Zoom?
Dan, representative, are you still there?
Hello.
Somehow I got muted again. This is Jim McGuire with Wildan Financial Services. We're the ones that prepare the engineer's report. The issue that you're really looking at, you're not talking about a subsidy in the past. What it was is this district, as part of its revenue, gets ad valorem tax revenues from, this was a Prop 13 issue. Years ago, it was set up to where the city receives a certain ad valorem, which is part of the 1%. That money is restricted to being used for landscaping and lighting. It's not really, it goes into the general fund, but it's restricted. So it only can be spent virtually on this district for lighting and landscaping. Zone 1 in the past had sufficient enough ad valorem revenues that it didn't need to have an assessment. So that's why it was not being levied an assessment.
Okay.
Now it doesn't have that ad valorem anymore. I mean, the district's still receiving ad valorem money, but Zone 1 doesn't have what it had before. So this year we're moving the assessment up to the authorized maximum assessment to balance the budget. So it's not like we've been using general fund monies to subsidize one particular area. That particular area had the funds that were restricted to that zone.
Okay.
That has now changed. So that's why you're seeing an actual assessment this year for Zone 1.
So did they have a fund balance in the past that was drawn from?
Yes, their fund balance was very large, and it was paying, it basically was enough to pay the assessment every year.
Okay.
Got it. Got it.
That makes sense.
Yeah,
Yeah,
that makes
I've seen
sense.
That makes a lot of sense.
Thank you. Really appreciate
That
you
was
clarifying.
very helpful. Thank you.
I'm sorry, I wanted to interject before, but I couldn't figure out how to get on without disturbing everybody.
You did fine, thank you.
That was perfect.
Thank you.
Are there any other questions from my council colleagues? If not, I will entertain a motion. I will now entertain a motion and a second to adopt the resolution. Is there
So
a mo-
moved.
Is there a second? Second. Please vote.
The motion is approved with Councilmember Trujillo voting no.
Okay. Next up on our agenda is public comment on agenda, consent calendar, and non-agenda items. I will now take public comment on agenda, non-agenda, and consent calendar items next. Before we begin the public comment period, I would like to remind members of the public that the city's meeting rules contained in the Downey Municipal Code prohibit any conduct that disrupts, disturbs, or interferes with the orderly conduct of the meeting. Copies of the meeting rules are located in the back of the chambers. The City Council acknowledges the right of the public to address issues that are within the city's jurisdiction and invites the public to do so during the City Council meeting. However, this right must be balanced with the need of the City Council to conduct the business in a fair and efficient manner, free from disruption or disturbance. Members of the audience who wish to address the City Council during public comment are reminded that the city's meeting rules prohibit yelling, whistling, booing, screaming, and any other outburst that disrupts or disturbs the meeting. Any conduct that interferes with or disrupts persons who are addressing the City Council. Any conduct that interferes with or disrupts council members while they are speaking, and any other conduct that disrupts, disturbs, or interferes with the orderly conduct of the meeting. Members of the audience violating the city's meeting rules after fair warning shall be removed from the council chambers. I remind the audience that pursuant to Penal Code Section 403, it is a misdemeanor for any person to willfully disturb or break up a public meeting. Those violating Penal Code Section 403 may be cited accordingly. Unless modified by the mayor, each speaker shall have 4 minutes to address the council regarding agenda, non-agenda, and consent calendar items. Pursuant to the Downey Municipal Code, the public comment period is limited to 30 minutes. I remind speakers that your comments be addressed to me and not to any other council or staff member. City Clerk Duarte, have we received any written public comment to be incorporated into the record?
Yes, Mayor, we have. We received one letter opposing the termination of City Manager Livas. We received 7 emails regarding regulating street vending. We received 1 email requesting commercial green waste trash bins for commercial buildings and apartments. We received 1 email opposing item number 8, agreement with United Pacific Services. We received 1 email regarding the time limit for public comment and City Manager Livas. We received 1 email regarding affordable housing and assisting the homeless population. And we received 1 email opposed to Councilmember Trujillo. And that is all, Mayor.
Thank you. Copies of the written public comment are available in the back of the room and on the city's website. I will entertain a motion and second to receive and file the written public comment.
So moved.
Is there a second? Can we please vote?
The motion is approved unanimously.
Members of the public wishing to address the City Council may now come forward and form a line. Yes, Mr. Herman?
Well, we know that the assemblywoman here, our mayor, is challenging the First Amendment. And I'm going to read from a notable public civil rights defender attorney, Harold Sobel, S-O-B-E-L, rookie interim city attorney, Ms. Lauren Langer, that the council rules defined as disruptive are in fact absolutely protected expression under federal court rulings. 42 U.S.C. 1983, politely, council. So, again, you're voting for an assemblywoman that wants to raise your taxes, chase the majority of you that are immigrants out of these high cost of living small towns because a wetback decides to get up in her game to be a goody-two-shoes mayor, assemblywoman, basically is cutting you in the back. I call that a backstabber. And so we are not only fucked for expensive projects, but we are fucked for bureaucratic projects failure. We are fucked for California fucked up problems, which is cost of living, inflation, high rents, and Catherine Alvarez said it. You're a bunch of fucking enterprise of criminals like Luis Jose Huizar in February of 2023 will be before a federal judge. And I want to thank you, Mr. Lee and Mr. George Esparza, and your federal indictments that you showed the world that development, greed, mayors, and political wimps have stolen from you. And the FBI at 310-477-6565 will take any of your comments, mail in all your documents, and you can prove to them you got credible evidence that this fucked up mayor, and I'll reiterate it politely, mommy, a fucked up mayor, fucked up assemblywoman, and a fucked up bitch, is taking advantage of us, the people of not just Downey, but in the state of California and in Los Angeles County. Fuck you, Bob Archuleta, for the record. Because I say that with the greatest of compassion for affordable housing, in which Bob Archuleta allows a woman in a white Ford for 2 years to sleep in front of the library, and this bitch mayor allows this person to sleep in their vehicle and not have affordable housing. You are a motherfucking bitch. In addition to that, I like to read the developer's greed of surge costs, subsidized housing development, as you heard from our public works, city manager, assistant city manager. We are doomed and we are getting fucked. And taxes are gonna fuck us all up because already many of you can see that your neighbors who are hardworking are feeling the impact of high gas prices, inflation, cost of living, grocery shopping, so you're all fucked. Except for the police, who are getting $1,500 from that fucked up governor, that fucked up bitch Pelosi, and that fucked up Sacramento House that continue to fuck with the way you live. And it's not just Democrats, it's those fucking little faggot Republicans that step into that party. Fuck you, 42 U.S.C. 1983. And I'm turning all these documents into the record, mommy.
Thank you, Mr. Herman. I don't know how many F words you used. I stopped counting after 10.
Oh, thank you again.
Hi, my name is Anita Rivero. I'm a 39-year resident of the city of Downey.
Thank you.
There, we hear me? Hello?
Is the microphone?
Okay. I'm a 39-year resident.
No, I don't think it's.
Give me a minute.
Restart the time, please.
Is the microphone on?
Okay.
Test. No.
Censorship, origin, free speech.
Okay.
Yeah, let's stop the. We'll restart you. We just want to make sure that we can hear you. We'll bring you another microphone.
We could get a new 10 person in here.
Hello? You hear me?
No.
No.
We need to fire our tech and hire young people.
Mr. Herman, your time was already up. That is your first warning. Continue with your outbursts, and you will be removed.
Testing? Okay.
Better.
Good.
Thank you.
Okay, my name is Anita Rivero. I'm a 39-year resident of the city of Downey. And I want to thank each and every one of you for your service to this city, the great city of Downey. And I can see it's not an easy job. And I'm just here to say I'm concerned about the theft of catalytic converters. My sister-in-law had twice a catalytic converter stolen from their car. And I was just wondering if you could have a task force, a reward, maybe for catching and convicting somebody that does it, maybe more security guards, cameras, and I'm not sure what can be done, but I was just wondering if anybody who has either had a catalytic converter stolen or knows someone who has could raise their hand. Okay, so that's just, I don't know what you can do about it, but if you can do anything, please do. Thank you.
It is a problem. Just a second. Mr. LaPlante?
I know that the police department arranged with one of the towing companies before to engrave them. It doesn't solve the problem, but it certainly helps in recovery efforts. And if that's possible to arrange again, I was able to get mine done a year or so ago, and that was a great program for the people who were able to take advantage of it. And if we can do more of that, it discourages them if they see it, and it helps at least in the recovery. When you find 50 of them, you know where they came from.
Yes, they just had that in the beginning of the month. They had that. It's called etching. They did it at Toyota.
Yeah, we've actually done 2 events in the city of Downey, and we can look at doing more, but it really is a regional problem, and everybody's been hit by it. But I think the resident hit the nail on the head. There's a lot of things we can do to try to be proactive to deter those types of thefts. But I think many of us in the room have been victims and can sympathize with you. But we'll continue to address it as aggressively as we can.
Thank you. Okay.
Good
Next
evening,
speaker.
honorable mayor and council members and staff. It's an honor to be here before you, and I'd like to welcome interim city manager Mark Scott. Good luck. I know it's going to be a great ride. Okay. California leads the nation in a skyrocketing number of catalytic converter thefts. I think we all know that. State Farm released their data from 2021, and it shows an increase of 1,171% nationally. So with more than 3 out of 10 of the claims being filed in California. So catalytic converters, as we all know, are made of highly valuable metals. Some are worth 10 times what gold is worth. So in 2020, State Farm paid $10.8 million. In 2021, $23 million. Last year, over 18,000 catalytic converters were stolen from California. That makes 30% of the insurance claims that are filed. All right, so skip down to the part that really unnerves me and bothers me. Stealing the average catalytic converter is done in under a minute. Under a minute. So you can no longer say, park under a light, don't park by the tree, because in broad daylight, I saw a lot of this preparing for tonight, you can see them doing it. In broad, they just pull over, they get out, they take their saw, and you're done. And they did it to me twice. Once at the gym over here at LA Fitness, and once coming out of the movie theater with my mom after her knee surgery. It was our first outing, and can you imagine, I can't drive my car. So, and this is supposed to be Downey, which I've always been very proud of. When I moved out of Burbank, I came here, and I love this city, and for 25 years, and I want to stay here. So going back to my speech, I became a victim twice of this. Okay, so Downey residents and many of my friends have been through the same ordeal. I never met so many people who've been through this or know someone who, it's kind of like cancer, everybody knows someone. So it leaves us frustrated, angry, and we no longer trust parking. I mean, honestly, I can't go to Massage Envy and get a massage anymore because I'm afraid, or I park where I'm not supposed to so that my car can be closer. I'm scared of being hit again. I go to the gym, I peek out every couple of minutes. Do you know that a catalytic converter is about $2,500? I paid $4,200 for mine because of that whole problem with COVID and the chain of, you all know what I'm talking about. So the rise in catalytic converter theft have created an intolerable situation for all California residents, leaving each city to fend for themselves. Like, we have to figure it out. So in Downey, we all know that an extra security guard here or there or an extra policing alone will not curb the thefts. So we're asking for increasing camera surveillance in our city for this purpose. So this is a serious safety issue. My friend posted a video on Facebook of her and her sister chasing this guy out from under her car. I mean, they were just angry and they weren't thinking. And the guy had his tool with him. He could have just turned around and smacked her. And now, a police officer from Downey, because I called to get my stats, told me one family had a catalytic converter stolen 4 times. Imagine you sending your kid back to the car to get something and your kid running into this person. You don't know what they're going to do. So this is really, really scary for me. So I just want to say that to every problem, there is a solution. And I thank Lieutenant Cooper from the Downey Police Department because he gave me the stats. July 2021, there had been...
Sorry, ma'am, your time's up.
1,071 auto thefts. We need to do something. This was the best part, and I'm going to ask my daughter to read it because this was where I'm praising all of you for working with us.
Ma'am, we have to, if you turn it around, we have...
I know. Alexis. Okay, well...
if you want, she could come in, but we have...
You know what I'll do? I'll just leave with the city clerk. Okay, thank you so much. Thank you very much.
I have to be fair with everybody.
No, of course, I understand. Thank you.
Good evening, Madam Mayor.
Good evening.
My name is Gabe Montoya, and as I've said before, I've served the City of Downey for 13 years as an EMT at Kaiser Permanente, Downey Emergency Department. Today, my fellow coworkers and I are here to speak about the healthcare minimum wage for healthcare workers in the City of Downey. I just want to reiterate that at a time when healthcare workers have been working under immense stress, short-staffed, and probably seeing more deaths than we've ever seen in our entire careers, it is important that we're caring for those who care for our community. I just want to tell a story real quick about 2 of my coworkers at Downey, both of whom are unable to be here tonight. One of them, a clerk named Amanda. Amanda was a mid-shift clerk who worked hard for our department to make sure that patients were sent to radiology, to make sure that patients were sent to the OR, and that doctors were able to communicate with each other. Amanda decided she was going to go to school to be a nursing student because she wanted to be an RN. Unfortunately, because of the pandemic and because of the stress that's put on healthcare workers, many are leaving the field because they can go other places and make either the same amount of money or just a little more without the danger or the stress. And so because we've been working short-staffed, Amanda was forced to leave our department so that she can continue her education because she couldn't get nights off to attend school. I want to say this, Amanda we got hired the same year in 2008 at Kaiser. And when Amanda went into our manager's office to give her resignation, her 2-week resignation, so she can continue school, the manager simply answered, okay, you can leave tonight if you want. And that's the amount of respect that really what healthcare workers have been dealing with recently. We have a security guard who was a staple in our department. She was caring, interacted well with the patients, and even interacted well with patients that she received verbal abuse from in our psychiatric area of the ER. And one day while she was at work, she was knocked unconscious by one of our patients. And I just got to say this, she never came back. And yet she got paid just above minimum wage, but continued to do her job because she cared about the patients, she cared about the City of Downey, and she cared about her fellow coworkers and keeping us safe, and we definitely miss her. But I just tell those 2 stories to paint a picture of what myself and my coworkers are going through and continue to go through in this pandemic. Even as the rest of the world thinks COVID is over, in the City of Downey, COVID numbers continue to rise along with hospitalizations. And I also want to say that I have coworkers who I don't know, but they are my coworkers and brothers and sisters in healthcare at PIH, who if at Downey Kaiser, there are 437 workers who would benefit from the raise in minimum wage, we know that that number is larger at PIH, that is non-unionized and does not give voice to their workers to raise wages. And so we stand here today, we stand here with them in solidarity and hoping this passes. And next you'll hear from my coworkers at Kaiser Downey who also serve this community to speak about why this should be passed. Thank you, Madam.
Thank you.
Good evening. My name is Eva Amador. I am also a Downey resident, and I've been a Kaiser employee for 26 years. I've seen a lot of friends, family members gone through the pandemic, and I too have dealt with a lot of stress about the shortage, putting myself at jeopardy, and more importantly, putting our patients at jeopardy. We don't have enough nurses, we don't have enough doctors. If we get a message or an email from a patient, we're 3 days or 4 days behind calling them and responding to them. It's horrible, and I too agree with my union brother and Kaiser employee brother that we would benefit from having the $25 minimum wage for healthcare workers, and hopefully to return more people to come back and have us adequately staffed so we can continue to give the service to all our members that they so painfully pay and should deserve to have. Thank you.
Thank you.
Wow, you guys have it's rough, I see, for you guys. So you know what? Thank you. You guys understand where we're coming from, and asking on behalf of all the healthcare workers in Downey to raise our minimum wage to $25 an hour. And I've been a Downey resident for 50 years, and yes, that's how old I am. I'm a third generation. My kids are, yes, fourth, and my granddaughter fifth. But, you know, I can ask you all right now, you've all been hospitalized maybe one time or another in your life. You're going to want a nurse who feels worthy of the pay that she receives. When we go by Panda Express, we see that they're hiring for $22 an hour for cooks. And you know what? We are thankful for those cooks because they give us lunch. But you know what? We deserve this because we've had to go to school to be a technical, to do what we do. We've paid thousands of dollars and had to do over 1,500 hours of clinical and all the things that nurses have to do, and I know you guys understand. But we are at a crossroads here. You know that the cost of living has gone up. You guys all know this. And yes, we have complaints because of taxes here and there, but we're talking about the backbone of who we are as people. As for healthcare, we all need it. And we all know that, you know what, as nurses, we have fought this fight valiantly. And I think we fought to, you know, kill this monster of COVID. And I think we deserve to have this minimum wage of $25 an hour when we have our dear people that work at Walmart almost making $22 an hour again. And I've looked all this up. This is happening, yes, because of what is going on in our economy. And I know you guys understand. So we're asking for the city of Downey to be our heroes. We've been heroes. We see the t-shirts, we see everything, but we're asking you guys to be our heroes because we are being so stretched right now. Yes, Kaiser and probably PIH are being asked to do what beyond that we're even capable of doing. And maybe, yes, Kaiser or PIH is not paying what they can pay, even though making some of the money that they've made. So we're asking you guys to back us up and help us. Help us help you when you guys need that care. That's what we're asking you guys for. I need to say this last thing. So please pass the healthcare minimum wage as an ordinance through the City Council of Downey. Be our hero. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hello, good evening. My name is Elvira Murillo, and I've been a healthcare worker for the past 23 years. I have served the city of Downey religiously for the past 13 years and fully dedicated to my job. Sadly to say, in the past 3 years, I have seen many of my fellow co-workers, brothers and sisters, fall to the greed of the hospital that we also work for and we serve. I ask for all of you to pass the minimum dollar wage to help these families who are, and healthcare workers who are serving each and every one of you and all of us every single day with dedication, even though struggling themselves. A lot of my fellow brothers and sisters who work in the healthcare field are struggling. They're living off of their cars, paying student loans, trying to feed their families, sometimes working up to 14-hour days just to try to be able to pay the monthly rent. This should not be happening to people who serve everyone in healthcare. And I ask you all religiously, please help pass this 25 minimum hour wage here in the city of Downey. Thank you.
Thank you.
Lee Squire, Vietnam era veteran, retired Ray employee, 31 years, civil rights advocate based on race and disabilities, auditor and fraud examiner. Mayor and City Council, water ratepayers, military and veterans. Subject, Leticia Vasquez versus Central Basin Municipal Water District, public entity, Alex Rojas and Robert Baker and Does 1 through 25, inclusive, the defendants. This lawsuit's being filed under what's called the Bain Civil Rights Act and the multiple violations related thereto. It's also being filed and supporting the First Amendment to the U.S. Constitution for multiple violations against Central Basin. Leticia Vasquez is a duly elected member of the Central Basin Municipal Water District. Her boundaries of voters include Linwood, Southgate, Paramount, and portions of Downey, Compton, an unincorporated area of LA County, including Willowbrook, and then Florence to Firestone and Athens. If you want the truth about local government and public agencies, always pursue a civil lawsuit so that we, the people, can control the flow of evidence and the results. Leticia Vasquez is also a whistleblower who had the courage to file a lawsuit as an elected board member, and she won that lawsuit and it's attached to this lawsuit. State auditors exposed major gross mismanagement in 2015 and the changes still have not happened. She's been subjected to harassment, threatening behavior, intimidation, etc. Assistant City Manager Askewy is mentioned on page 24 on line 1, thank God. Leticia's husband is an attorney and he's also black. He has sued to enforce his wife's civil rights and the First Amendment rights of, thank God, we the military veterans. Her husband and I have already agreed, and I will offer him all of my assistance as both a civil rights enforcement activist and as a fraud examiner. Thank you. Here's the lawsuit.
I know historians in the future will rank those who speak in favor of abortion with the likes of Adolf Hitler, Joseph Stalin, Chairman Mao, and Pol Pot. You decry the killing fields of Cambodia. What do you have to say about the killing fields of America? The mother's wombs, which should be the most sacred space, entered by the abortionists' devices to kill the innocent life within.
Madam Mayor, members of the City Council, Mr. Scott, and staff, good evening. First of all, I want to welcome Mr. Scott to the Downey City Council meetings, known by some as the circus. Secondly, I heard a comment from a wise man the other day who said that life is like a roll of toilet paper. What you do is that when you first start using the toilet paper, the roll goes very slowly. But as you continue to use the roll paper, the back of, or the end of the roll of paper goes very, very fast. So I just wanted to share that as a side comment. My main comment today has to do with the departure of Mr. Livas. I've heard many comments about Mr. Livas. I'm going to share some of my comments, which will be repetitive. He's a good man. He was a family man. He was a man, his folks taught him methods of good common sense, a hard work ethic, and also to be very fair and honest in what he's done. Basically, as being a city manager, he has worn very many hats. I think one of the most challenging from an outsider's point of view is the fact that he had to put up with the changing of the guard of the council members. He had to educate them as to how a city is run. He had to blend and mesh the different concepts and the wants of the different new council people and blend them together and hopefully establish a common policy. But I think the most challenging of as many things that he's done is that he had to work with some council people, 2 of them are sitting amongst you, that wanted to remove him and oust him from office. What he did is that he did it with a method of being honest, he was forthright, and he was a professional in whatever he did. I wish Mr. Livas the very best and his family. Madam Mayor, I yield my remaining time back to you.
Thank you.
Greetings. My name is Lawrence Christian. I'm here for 3 reasons initially. One was to mention that as you hold this meeting tonight, the theater, the Downey Civic Theater, the largest civic building in the city, is dark, as it is most of the year. As a former drama critic for the Los Angeles Times, I discovered the Downey Theater some decades ago and was impressed with it as one of the best theaters in the city, LA County. Nothing is being done about it. I would like to discuss that at another meeting. I defer that for now. The second reason I'm here is to mention Claudio Frometta. And the third reason is Gilbert Livas. Councilman Frometta, when she ran for office, I was skeptical in the beginning. And I found out over time that I was wrong. I made a private apology in December, and I'm making a public one now. You have proven yourself steadfast, wise, professional, good judgment, and strong. You know who you are, you stand up for your ethical sense, and I have done nothing but gain admiration for you while you have been in office. As for Gilbert Livas, I echo all the praise that's been said about him earlier tonight. He deserves every syllable, and he's also been a friend, a wise friend. It may come as some news to people here in this room and people watching, but he did not leave voluntarily. He was forced out by a well-publicized story that laid the blame or the origin with Mario Trujillo, Catherine Alvarez, and Sean Ashton, who's no longer with him. There was a huge meeting here in December, people objecting to that development. No reflection on you, Mr. Scott, and welcome to Downey. A lot of people brought up the question of why, but that question has never been addressed by anyone. So I am asking it now. Mr. Trujillo, why did you force out Gilbert Livas? What is your reasoning? How did that help the theater, help the city, or you as a public servant, how did that help the city of Downey to force out one of its most able servants? I ask you that question directly.
Sir, please make sure to address me, not to the council.
Okay, well, you ask him. I'm asking through you. Nobody's ever given the reason. And that is appalling. I mean, you people lead you are representatives. You are supposed to be exemplary, and most of you are. And all of you, or most of you, have run promising transparency of city government. Here is a crucial issue, the most puzzling that has faced the city of Downey in years, if not ever. So I am asking, I'll ask through you, why was Gilbert Livas forced out? It wasn't because of competence. It wasn't because of ability. Everybody loves him, admires him, and yet it happened. So I ask you, why?
And I'm not at liberty. I don't know if our city attorney wants to chime in.
May I ask you? Oh, sorry,
No.
may I ask Ms. Alvarez through you?
No, I'm sorry.
Well,
and also we
It's also
cannot
not a
have-
moment for back and forth.
Yeah,
with
we
the
can't have
public
back
here
and
to
forth.
hear.
Say again?
It's also not a moment for back and forth with the council during public comment.
Well, I'm out of time now, but I let the question settle.
Thank you, sir.
It's crucial.
Thank you.
Good evening,
Good
Mayor,
evening.
council members, and staff. I'm a healthcare worker. My name is Greg Shorter, and I want to speak to you on the raising the minimum wages for the healthcare workers as an ordinance. And the reason being is because I believe that they deserve it. As many have said, they're heroes, but sometimes it seems like we're heroes without a cape. We have to struggle to know just to pay ends and make ends meet, to pay for gas, to be able to pay our rent, to be able to struggle to put gas in our cars to get to work. But yet and still, we are the ones that you guys have to come to when you need medical attention, when you need help, when you're sick and you need that medical attention. We're the ones who are there on the lines every day, especially within the last couple of years during this pandemic. 2020 in March changed our whole entire world, especially for the healthcare workers. We stand on the line and put ourselves on the line and put our lives in jeopardy for everyone, and yet and still, we can't get a minimum wage that we can actually use to be able to take care of our families. And I think it's important that we look at that. We have all these issues that we have in our cities that are important, but what's more important than taking care of our health and having somebody that's there to know what to do and how to do it and take care of it when we need it the most. But yet we look back at them and say, are they worth it? And I would say, yes, we are worth the minimum wage. At least the minimum wage, because we work very hard. We have to go to school, get an education. We have to be educated to be able to take care of you the right way and keep you healthy. And it costs money for us to do. It costs money for us to live. And we're trying to survive through this pandemic. We're getting our PPE. We're always fighting for something. I notice we're fighting every day to just survive and keep going every day, but then nobody's there to help us. You notice that you don't mind paying $1,000, $2,000 to go see a ball game, but you can't pay your teachers. You can't pay the people that are taking care of you every day in these hospitals. So I plead with you. I ask that you guys look at this as an ordinance and pass this for the healthcare workers who work so hard and give up so much but get so little back. Thank you.
Thank you.
Question, don't we have a 30-minute limit now for public comment? We didn't limit it to 30 minutes?
We only have a couple more speakers. So we're going to continue forward.
Okay. Mike Greenspan, and I live 5.4 miles from that Bob Archuleta sign. Oh, by the way, it's 25 miles to City Hall, that Bob Archuleta sign that was in Burbank back in 2016. You guys know who he is. He's your state senator. And yes, he ran in a district he didn't live in. Because, you see, the guy who's known from the Montebello Police Department as Fred Flintstone Yabba dabba doo, a district I can run for and I don't have to live there. Because in reality, Archuleta's a Wilma, not a Fred Flintstone, a political pussy, afraid to run against Cunt Hahn. So he goes to a district where he doesn't live and a big old sign out there and thought he could get elected. Who knows? He might not even get reelected in his Senate seat. Because if you've been around as long as he has and you only got 36% of the vote in the primary, that means 64% want anybody but you. And so yabba dabba doo, it'll be nice to see him lose. Speaking about that dog and pony show they had last December about Gilbert Livas, yes, I heard it was Trujillo, Alvarez, and our failure from the Association of Independent Cities, Sean Ashton, that was leading the charge. And for what? Now, I can see Mr. Ascui, he's on a leave of absence. Maybe he should get fired. Maybe you should have your meeting to get rid of John Ascui. And let's not make it a leave of absence, because usually when you get these personal leave of absence, somebody's fucked up. And Ascui has. Now, has he been indicted? No, but that doesn't mean he might not be indicted tomorrow or the next day or who knows when. At least Gilbert didn't leave with any indictments over him. He's not like Mr. Weezar or Mr. Englander or Mr. Lee over there in, not John Lee, but the developer Lee that greased the palms for development. And let it be known, if they didn't grease the palms, then guess what? Their project would get stalled. So at least Mr. Livas is not going, to the best of my knowledge, to any prison like Englander. Maybe some of these are going to go to what I call a country club prison. In Florida, it would be the Eglin Air Force Base with a joke of,
Second warning, Mr. Herman.
bring your golf clubs. But it was a bring your golf clubs kind of prison, a slap on the wrist instead of going to the hardcore prison that they should deserve. Englander got away with murder. He got away with stealing and everything else. He didn't even go to the Association of Independent Cities meeting during Sean's tenure or any other time. He always skipped out because he went to Las Vegas to get bribe money from developers. Oh, he didn't accept the chips because it was all on camera. They would see him gambling. But he got another bribe, an escort masseuse, as the federal prosecutor called it, for having a raucous night in Las Vegas, as David Zanheiser of the LA Times called it. And when his wife was holding his hand out there waiting to take an Uber, and the usual suspects were there, Mr. Spindler, Mr. Herman, Mr. Gus, and myself. I hollered, "Looky thar, his wife's holding his hand, the hand that rubbed his escort's pussy in Las Vegas."
Thank you.
Okay. Good questions tonight. Why was Gilbert Livas forced out? It was offered to come down here and give your explanation back in December, even in November it was. But you didn't have enough backbone to come on down here and say why. You didn't have enough guts to come down here and say why. And the mayor, she accepted his resignation, so she's just a part of the group as anybody else. Only one person did not accept his resignation. That was District 4's representative. But we still have that dark cloud, and it's going to stay there until that explanation is brought forth. It will always be there. Always be there. And just like now, there's still the opportunity for each one of you. Well, it's gone now because the signatures have already been gathered, but you had an opportunity to stand up and publicly endorse the recall of George Gascon, District 5's former boss, who was a henchman for George Gascon, by the way. You can look it up in the Padilla case. Look at his role in that case. Pretty interesting. So if you want to stand up and endorse the recall, that's a little late now. You decided to make this a criminal's paradise, along with George Gascon. No matter how much you bloviate and blow the hot air out here. You're tough on crime, you know, your mom's more American than anybody, all this sort of stuff. We don't believe it. Nobody believes it. You have no credibility. And we're paying $7 a gallon gasoline. Thank you, Democrat Party. Thank you for keeping the 51-cent gallon, a gallon gas tax on us here and not voting for the gas tax freeze. And we can't expect this mayor and the assembly to stand up for us either, because the Democrats, see, all of them, they had 3 opportunities to give us a gas tax holiday in California. And every single time, every single Democrat voted to keep the gas tax. They didn't want to give us a break. They just couldn't do it. And back to the George Gascon, I would like to encourage even the assembly wannabes to stand up and oppose Proposition 47, which was authored by George Gascon and Gavin Newsom, which instituted cashless bail and other good things to let criminals back out on the street. And, you know, you can't say that you're opposed to this sort of stuff and want to grandstand about the officers in El Monte, Paredes and Santana, when it was George Gascon's boy that was let out and went and killed him over there. You can't grandstand anymore on that. It's not going to work. Okay, the Citizens Climate Lobby, very anti-human policies, wind and solar are nothing but a sham. They have been. It takes fossil fuels to create a sustainable, successful life, okay? Not wind and solar. That doesn't work. It takes more fossil fuels to mine those minerals out to make your solar panels and things like that. There's no savings. And we are carbon, by the way. So if you want to get rid of carbon, you do want to get rid of humans. Venue Tech runs our Downey Theater. They've been scamming us for years, and I just want you to know that that runs in $600,000 deficits every year, the theater does.
Thank you, sir.
Hello. Oh, hello. I came for regarding first is the stream vendor programs. You know that we have monthly the city cleaning programs every other, once a Saturday. And you know, even though looking clean streets, when you go deeper into each area, there are a lot of trashes. And even the city now is clean looking in the major road, but street vendor program will make an issue on our cleanness on the streets and our city. So even though there is some approval on some of the area, it should be restricted for our cleanness of the city. And regarding the fee I said earlier, I don't know much of all the detail, but one thing I noticed was like a gold price that this is exercise program, entertaining for the for the family members. But even though I do not go there much, city program helping people, this kind of program helping people, our committee members with income limitations, who has income limitations, but increasing those prices $4 or $5 is a lot for whole family. So that's the part that like some of the area that really you need to focus on. And lastly, I also want to talk about the low wagons cases. I talked about it, and why I'm bringing is who should be protected. And we Downey City has the picnic for the LGBTQ, and this is not the matter of who are weak, but this is a matter of which area we are more interested of. And not only so, we protect minority, so we have picnic for the Cubans. In Downey, there is 5% of Koreans. Well, we are not having any kind of protection, picnics, anything, but protecting people with those who have interest on LGBTQ, not for the minority. So I'm suggesting why not supporting this money for the LGBTQ to Koreans instead of those who have just have, therefore only interesting, for the interesting part. And that's it, thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, so according to Mr. Livas, who, I disagreed with Mr. Livas a lot on many things, many policy things, but I actually don't like the fact that we now have someone who has been in like 9 different cities. I think that's a recipe for disaster. It's like this is the person that cities call when they want to move fast and, do a lot of shady things that people don't want to know about, meaning you guys don't want the people to know about, the people want to know about it. So it looks like, as has been mentioned, he's going to increase the hotel tax. That's not going to be good. I'm sure he's going to increase the fees too. And apparently he's going to have this monkey list because that's within Burbank. They told him to get a monkey list so the council members could keep track of what he was doing. So I think that the monkey list here in Downey should be a public thing. It should be posted on the website so we can see. So, so I'm really troubled because, Mr. Livas kind of had to say that, oh, the city's in good hands. No. The city is in very bad hands. Very bad hands. You only got to take a look at, again, the city attorney. So I spoke about last time, and a lot of people contacted me asking me to clarify this issue. So yes, the city attorney is coming from the law firm Best and Krieger, and that was the law firm that had to be let go by Mario Guerra, like over 10 years ago. He says because they were the law firm over in Bell when the scandal over there hit. So obviously that law firm, BB&K, was not providing good legal advice to the city. Maybe they were helping the council members stuff their pockets, but of course that was at the expense of the citizens. So the people said no more, and hence they threw out that city attorney. And he was also here in Downey. Hence Mario Guerra spoke very strongly against him. And then we come to find out that the city attorney does not have her own contract. She is like an associate of BB&K here. So it's like we don't really have an employee city attorney. That's very concerning because that means that it's going to be easier to, push all those things that forward. And the community doesn't want that. So specifically, I think it's very clear. She put it on her own LinkedIn, so it's very clear what's going to happen. I'm going to predict the future here. She is. She's been the president, the chair of the marijuana committee for the California cities, and she has records. She's written about it. She's written all about it. She's also written about how to escape Brown Act traps. So that's literally like how to get away with being shady. So that's very concerning. And what's left over, I'd like to address this conference that you guys went to. Ms. Frometa, I get it. People are saying maybe she's, not corrupt. Well, then stop taking pictures with corrupt people like Ricardo Lara and Bobby Garcia. Ricardo Lara under investigation by the FPPC. And Naleo is over in downtown where they are in the Social Security Administration, and they are now being called upon by Biden to cancel Social Security, to privatize it. So this is not good for the community.
Thank you.
So no to that.
Okay. Hi, everyone. My name is Joaquin Beltran. Mi nombre es Joaquin Beltran. I recently ran for Congress. I want to thank you, Mayor, for making sure that everyone who was in line got a chance to speak. I think it's very important. I was a little surprised by others who didn't want everyone to speak. I think it's very important to hear from the community firsthand. So thank you so much, Mayor. And congratulations on your recent win for Assembly. What I want to share here, first and foremost, I want to thank everyone who participated in my campaign for Congress. I launched the campaign 2.5 months ago, right? 2.5 months before the election. And we did just as well as people who launched about a year ago, raise more money, and that was just community support. So I think that speaks to the powerful message that we were running on and touching on the important issues that people are experiencing. And if we look at the tea leaves, if we're being very honest here, we are in very challenging times that are just going to get more challenging right now. And I think it's really important that we be proactive at any level as community members, as volunteers, city council members, state legislators, or even federal legislators, to do everything we can to help one another. I want to touch on love. One of the community members talked about love a few weeks ago here, and I think when we look at COVID here, it's easy to kind of gloss over it. And to pretend the pandemic isn't happening. We had a healthcare worker here earlier who said very clearly that that cases are increasing. And if you look at the community transmission map, this is very clear. And so I think there's a lot of silliness that happens in politics where we try to ignore an issue, but it's at the peril and it puts our communities in danger. Right? We don't need to lose any more people. We've lost upwards of 1.3 million estimated excess deaths. That's ridiculous. Should have never happened. We have to take this pandemic very seriously. And so we need to approach it with love, right? And so I want to commend people who are wearing masks today. I want to commend everyone who's working to keep their community safer. And I want to invite anyone who's on the council, anyone who's in the audience, anyone who's listening online. If you care to make your community safer, if you want to work on masks, if you want to work on testing, if you want to work on ventilation or filtration, please reach out to me. I am happy to work with you because we have to work together. This is an enormous challenge, and we just have to be very straight here with the problem at hand and do what we can. So please reach out to me at joaquinbeltran.com. And I want to thank Downey Patriot, who covered my campaign. I want to thank volunteers all the way across the country, all the way to Connecticut, who helped out. I want to thank people in the audience here, like Rodolfo, who also covered the campaign. And I want to thank my family as well for going out there, even my mom, helping to share flyers and talk to voters. So thank you so much. I appreciate your time, and thank you.
Thank you. Seeing no further speakers, can I get a motion to close public comment? Is there a second? Second. So ordered by the mayor. We're going to go ahead and take a 3-minute recess. We will go ahead and reconvene the city council meeting. Now is the time for consent calendar items. Item number 13 will be pulled from tonight's agenda and will be brought back to a future meeting. Are there any council members that would like to remove or abstain from an item?
Yes, Madam Mayor.
My problem by pulling 13.
I would like to abstain from the minutes of the June 14th special meeting as I was not present. And I would like to pull item number 8.
Okay, any other abstentions? I did want to pull items number 10, 11 for a question. I will now proceed to item number 8. Councilmember Trujillo? Oh, wait, actually.
No, we gotta vote
let's,
on it first. No? We gotta vote.
Is there a motion?
So moved.
And a second to approve the consent calendar items that were not pulled?
Second.
There was a motion and a second. Please vote.
The motion is approved unanimously.
Thank you. Councilmember Trujillo, item number 8, it's all yours.
Yes, I have a question about item number 8. One of the things that we learn about in these conferences that we go to is obviously energy efficiency. And seeing that we're going in the right direction in Downey, especially with the solar panel program that's on its way, I was wondering if when we issue RFPs to, for example, trash companies, street sweeping companies, tree trimmers, if we're requiring that they use energy efficient vehicles, is that a requirement that we have? I know some cities are going strict on RFPs and asking for the use of energy efficient vehicles. So I was wondering if that was part of the criteria in the selection here.
For this particular RFP, it wasn't a requirement, but I believe the street sweeping contracts, they use all CNG, and same with the trash collection company.
And CNG is for clean?
It's compressed natural gas.
Okay. What other contracts require CNG? Is it just street sweeping?
Like I said, I believe it's street sweeping and trash collection.
Okay. So if one company has the use of that vehicle, of that equipment, of that type of equipment, do they get points or anything for that? Does that get taken into account at all?
Right now, we don't have that as part of our scoring criteria.
Okay. We received an email, the staff gave it to us, regarding some concerns with this vendor. Were you aware of this, Mr.?
Not until today when I got the same email. So I was on jury duty the whole day. So when I was kind of on break, so I tried to look it up. And as far as I can tell, the case wasn't related to the company itself or the business. It was a personal loan. So it didn't have anything to do as far as workmanship or anything to do with the operations of the company.
Okay. Those are the questions I had. Thank you.
Thank you.
And Madam Mayor, you did say the item number, which item we're going to bring back?
13.
13.
Okay.
That's
Just
venue
wanted to
tech.
make sure the public was aware. We'll be bringing that back at the next council meeting for further discussion.
Yes, that was the venue tech item. Okay. Is there any other questions about item number 8 that was pulled?
I would just like to ask that in the future, in these RFPs where we have vendors who are going to be bringing in vehicles for services, that we consider adopting a rule where we want CNG vehicles just to take the city in the right direction when it comes to environmental impact of the vendors and the vehicles they're using. So at some point, we should consider that.
Okay.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Yes.
I don't mind, I think it should be part of a scoring criteria, and they may want to be able to do electric, I don't know, get F-150 Lightnings, who knows?
Yes, it should be part of the scoring criteria, so I don't know if that's an issue that goes back to the staff.
Yeah, I think it does. I just want to say I agree with the concept, but we may find that no tree trimming company has any of that either.
Right,
so.
right.
Correct.
We will bring back, I mean, I can follow up on the suggestion and we can bring back a discussion of how you would take into consideration environmental benefits as part of the scoring package. Right now, it's hard to get any tree trimmers to do anything. It's really very difficult, but in the future, we can look seriously about that.
Okay.
Thank you. Is there a motion to approve item number 8?
Motion to approve.
A second? Is there a second? All right, please vote.
The motion is approved unanimously.
And the reason why I pulled items number 9 and actually 10 and 11, both of them have to do with Commline Inc. I know one's from PD and one's from Fire. I noticed that item number 10, it's a 1-year contract, and item number 11 is a 3-year contract. Is there a reason why one is a 1-year and one is a 3-year?
The fire department's been working with Commline as their service provider for communications equipment for 7 or 8 years now, and we've established a long-standing relationship with them. And it seems like the 1-year contracts come up very quickly, so we opted to go for a 3-year contract this term. And I don't want to speak for PD or put words into Chief Murray's mouth, but they've recently just started contracting with Commline a year or 2 ago. And their radio equipment is of a different manufacturer, so they may be just wanting to test the waters with them to build the relationship and see if they want to continue with them.
No, thank you, Chief Herlock. And that's exactly it. We started working with Commline in 2018, I believe. And eventually, if we have successful operations with them and the equipment that we're using continues to be what we use going forward, we would always consider a multiple-year contract if it made sense.
Okay, that was my question regarding those 2 items. Is there any other questions? No?
Questions.
Can we take these 2 items together since, okay. Is there a motion to approve both items number 10 and 11?
So moved.
And there's a second. Please vote.
Items 10 and 11 are approved unanimously.
Okay, moving along. We are now at the administrative reports. There are 3 administrative reports this evening. The first one, designate voting delegate and alternates for League of California Cities Annual Conference, September 7th through 9th, 2022 in Long Beach, California. Adopt a resolution of the City Council of the City of Downey designating a voting delegate and alternates for the League of California Cities Annual Conference and Expo, September 7th through the 9th, 2022 in Long Beach, California. Interim City Manager Scott, is there a staff report?
I'm not actually sure who put this item on the agenda.
We'll say Vanya.
Oh,
Vanya
now
will do it.
she's right there. Look at that. I'm really doing this well, aren't I?
You're doing great.
Good evening, Madam Mayor, members of the City Council. As you mentioned, exactly what you had said. So as done every year during the annual League of California Cities Conference, an annual business meeting is held where League membership considers and takes action on resolutions that establish League policy. The City Council must designate a voting delegate and 1 or 2 alternatives to ensure the city's interests are represented at the League and considers platform initiatives for upcoming year. Attached to the report is the resolution that needs to be completed as along with the League of California Cities request for designation, and that completes staff report.
Thank you.
Can I add one thing?
Yes.
Whoever volunteers to do this needs to keep in mind that this happens last thing on the Friday afternoon.
I'm very aware of it. I'm usually the delegate.
I can't tell you. I've been going to these since 1974, and I can't tell you how many times I've become the last-minute substitute delegate because people hadn't realized that it was the last thing on Friday. So,
So
I'd like to make a motion that our mayor be our voting delegate. Should I go ahead and designate an alternate?
And we just need an alternate. Anybody want to be an alternate?
Mr. LaPlante, will you be attending this year?
It's so far away, I don't know whether I can make it all the way to Long Beach on a Friday afternoon. Yes, I'd be happy to.
Then I'll nominate our mayor to be the voting delegate and Councilmember LaPlante to be the alternate for the League of California Cities Conference, September 7th through 9th.
Thank you. There's a second. Please vote.
One moment, please. The motion is approved unanimously.
Thank you. The next item is discuss the city's current contributions to Downey Arts, History and Culture, and the creation of a Downey Arts and Culture Grant Program. Interim City Manager, would you like to take a guess as to who's going to
I
be
know
providing this
exactly who's
report?
doing this one, and she did a great job trying to put something together in 2 weeks to address this this issue, and we will do our best tonight to address these issues that the City Council asked to have reviewed. Part of it, as you know, relates to the suggestion of a grant program, and part of it relates to the suggestion that that be done in the context of the greater arts and culture funding program. The latter is, of course, quite a substantial discussion and may not be possible to do all in one sitting, but Vanya has done the best she could to put together a staff report that's responsive, and we will head down that path and see where the discussion takes us.
Thank you, City Manager Scott. So once again, good evening, Madam Mayor, members of the City Council. So this is a pretty long report, so when I go through the different sections, I'm going to try to give a summary of each section.
Can you talk a little louder, please?
Sure.
Or
pull it closer.
Something with the mic.
So just to repeat, it is an extensive report, so I'm going to try to give a summary of each of the sections instead of going line item by line item. But to give a background, at the May 24th, 2022 City Council Budget Workshop, the members of the Arts and Cultural Subcommittee requested that the city create a Downey Arts Cultural Grant Program and asked staff to conduct research on other city art grant programs. Additionally, Councilmember LaPlante asked for a staff report that provides a comprehensive list of city contributions to the arts, history, and culture in Downey. So tonight we're going to try to put up that all together. The City of Downey has a long history of contributing to the Downey arts, history, and culture. Annually, the city spends approximately $2.5 million in arts, history, and culture. I do want to point out that that number may be actually slightly larger than that. Later in the report, I do mention the library and its programming, events, and offerings. The library budget currently does not have the ability to pull out specific events and programming to put dollar values towards their specific events, so it's hard to gather that dollar amount. So just to put as a caveat for that. With the addition of the money spent from the Arts and Public Places Fund and Measure S, we've allocated an additional $4.7 million to the arts, history, and culture. So beginning with infrastructure, we have the Downey Civic Theater. The theater hosts a variety of shows annually, approximately 75 community rental events and 8 to 10 city presentations. For the upcoming fiscal year, the City of Downey is subsidizing from the general fund a contribution of $929,000. Additionally, through Measure S, approximately $2.9 million in improvements were done at the Downey Theater, including an informational kiosk, seating conversation areas, installation of a circular fountain, and exterior elevator accessing the theater's second floor. Also, under infrastructure, we have the Columbia Memorial Space Center. Opened in 2009, the Space Center is a cultural and historic resource to the city. The missions and hardware that were developed, made, and now celebrated through the Space Center in Downey are cultural artifacts and are recognized as the Smithsonian, a cultural institution being an affiliate with the Space Center. Also, the Space Center is currently in the design phase of the second building expansion. And we want to note that as part of the budget adoption that happened on June 15th of this year, we also allocated another $4 million that isn't part of the number that was mentioned before, because that was from a recent sale of property and is being held for the expansion of the second building, construction of that building. So it's currently being allocated for that. Also, for the fiscal year 22-23 budget, the city's general fund contribution to the Space Center is $1.3 million. Under funding programs, we have the Art in Public Places. The City Council adopted the Arts in Public Places Fund in 2005 with the goal of providing original artworks that are easily accessible to the general public throughout the city, including art parks, business centers, and public spaces. All development that involve the construction of commercial and multifamily buildings are subject to the Arts in Public Places program. Developers either pay a cash payment equal to the public art fee, which is 1% of valuation of the project, up to $150,000, or install public art, a minimum of $30,000 on their property. The city has expended $1.8 million from this fund since inception. Under the Downey Civic Theater Financial Assistance Program, the city allocates about $40,000 for this program. The financial system is in the form of rental credit to Downey-based nonprofit programming arts organizations wishing to present a program at the Downey Civic Theater. Currently, the Downey Roosevelt Association and the Downey Symphony Orchestra regularly apply. In regards to the State Gallery, in this March 2012, the City Council amended the Arts and Public Places guidelines to expand availability of art to the general public. This amendment allowed for the use of Art in Public Places Fund to pay for art venues within the boundaries of the downtown specific plan. The City Council approved an operating agreement with Downey Art Vibe, now known as Day Arts. The agreement is prescribed as the services to be performed by State Arts at State Gallery. The State Gallery is a 501c3 nonprofit organization that engages and empowers Los South Angeles communities through the arts, creative exploration, and cultural expression. To date, the city has, through its total lease agreements with DAV, State Arts, $193,000. Regarding city events, the city has held a number of popular events representing arts and culture in the city. Key events are listed below in the report, and they total $256,000 approximately. These range from International Food Festival, Havana Nights, and most recently the Mexico and the Corazon event that happened at the theater. Regarding public art, the city had instituted a Power Box public art program. This was implemented in 2013, first as a pilot program where they did contracted for 10 paintings of the power boxes, and then it eventually expanded to an additional 6. And then in November 2014, the program was expanded to include it to be available to members of the public to adopt a box for $1,500, and the city will maintain it for 10 years when it's adopted. There's approximately additional 16 of those boxes that have been adopted for a total of 32 boxes approximately throughout the city. The city approved, also under art, we have Downey Doodle-licious mural. The city approved the installation of the mural on the Porto's Bakery parking structure wall, utilizing funds from the Arts and Public Places Fund. The image on this painting combines past and present memories of Downey. Also, for under this area, we have art sculptures. Through the Arts and Public Places Fund, the city's installed 15 art pieces throughout the city. Additionally, 3 art pieces were completed by the developers on their property. So this goes back to the Arts and Public Places Fund that I have mentioned earlier. Most recently, within the most recent 2 years, you'll see that there has been 3 art sculptures that have been in the Downey Theater Plaza and the Downey Avenue, downtown Downey. There was a 6. Also in downtown Downey, there's the historical kiosk marker art piece. The art piece tells the story of downtown Downey areas through informative text and photographic context directly on the marker. Then at Furman Park, as part of the Measure S Neighborhood Improvement Project program, the city installed an art piece called Dreams of Tomorrow. And that was utilizing funds from the Public Arts Program. The city is also currently looking to explore for vendors for the creation of a Karen Carpenter statue as well, and that'll be brought to the City Council once that is done. In regards to programming, the Downey Library provides numerous free programming in the areas of arts, history, and culture. Regarding to story time, they provide programming related to Chinese New Year, Latin Heritage Month, Black History Month, Cinco de Mayo, and Dia de los Muertos. For ongoing programming, there's 17 different classes, workshops, and they range from Meet the Masters, Learn How to Paint, Creativity with 3D Printing, and Anime Your Way workshops. They also have their own events, and that includes, there's 16 that are listed. So Hispanic poet with Jimmy Santiago Baca, to movie nights, to author events, to Lunar New Year, to singer Jose Luis Orozco. And then we have exhibits and archives. They've had the Downey Celebrates the Carpenters and Downey History Collection. Under the Parks and Recreation Department, they also offer a variety of contract classes to the public in the following areas: anime and cartoon and comic book special camp, dance classes, art classes, music classes, and senior activities, to trips to musicals and pageant to the masters. Then in 2019, we have the Police Department and they institute a greeting card artwork contest. And each year, they select winners that were from 4 different grade categories. And winners are presented with a certificate, a $50 gift card, and their featured holiday greeting card, and a personalized note from the Chief of Police. Under other history and culture, we have the NASA Volte building. So again, earlier this year, the City Council approved a memorandum of understanding with U.S. Downey LLC to facilitate the transfer of the NASA Volte building. So once that transfer is complete, the city plans to keep the historic building intact and actively reuse it for community-serving purpose, specifically a business academic incubator to leverage and spur the STEM resources and curriculum provided by the Commline Memorial Space Center and the Downey Unified School District to further the science culture in Downey. We also have Bob's Big Boy. In 2007, the city facilitated complex negotiations with Bob's Big Boy Restaurant and developed an owner participation agreement where Bob's Big Boy Restaurant would restore and reconstruct and preserve the historical elements of the former Johnny's Boiler restaurant site. So that's kind of the summary. If you look at the creation of, switching gears a little bit, to the creation of a Downey Arts and Cultural Grant. So we looked at cities would have similar type programming that was discussed at the subcommittee. So looking at those cities, the listing of those cities, the budget of these programs range from $30,000 to $150,000, and applicants receive a maximum of $30,000 to $10,000. I did want to make a note that the County of Los Angeles Department of Arts and Culture offers a community impact arts grant program that Downey organizations and individuals are eligible to apply to this program as well. And awardees can reach up to $20,000 with a 1-to-1 cash match. If the City Council were to approve the creation of the Arts and Cultural Grant Program, staff can develop a recommended program for City Council consideration at an upcoming City Council meeting. And with that, that concludes staff report, and I'm available to answer any questions that you may have.
Thank you. Oh, go ahead.
Maybe I can just offer a couple other comments. If the City Council, after you discuss this, if the City Council were to decide that you're interested in providing a grants program of some sort, and I know that some of you want to have a discussion before you make that decision, but if you were to give that direction to the staff, I think we'd be happy to bring back recommendations on 2 things. One is how to operate it, and the other is how to pay for it. Of course, it depends on the scope of which you're looking for in order to do the program. How to pay for it encompasses whether it's from other arts programs or whether it's from other parts of the budget. And so there's a whole broad range there. We'll be happy to do that if you get to a point where you'd like to look at the options for doing these kind of programs. I've done several of them in other places, and I'm aware of others. The discussion of the greater overall arts program, arts and culture and history program for the city, is, you just heard, is obviously a very big discussion. It's an appropriate discussion for the council to do from time to time, but we're obviously going to need a more structured way of going about discussing that. And I don't know if you ever do study sessions where you sit around a table instead of at the dais, but it's the kind of budget discussion that lends itself to that kind of approach from time to time. But so I will leave it to you to tell us where you want to go with this, but if you do decide you want to look at programs, let us come back and give you some options on how to do it and the options for funding it.
And if I could add to that, I believe it was earlier this year that the subcommittee had recommended a strategic plan to be considered. So the city council did approve that, and I believe it was for about $3,600. So the subcommittee had started work on that, but it had switched gears a little bit to make it more comprehensive. So as the city manager had mentioned, that might be something also to bring as part of the discussion.
Thank you. If I may, Madam Mayor. So, Vania, in total, based on the report that you've put together, very thorough, the city, we spend approximately $2.5 million on arts, history, and culture, and that's not, that doesn't include, obviously, the additional $4 million that you briefed us on that is going to be additionally allocated.
Correct. That doesn't include the 4.7 from the Public Arts Fund, Measure S, and the additional $4 million that was allocated part of the budget process this past meeting.
So it is a pretty robust amount that we do.
Yes, Councilmember LePat.
Thank you for the very comprehensive report. I appreciate the time it took to put together. One thing I've learned over the years is very rarely are good discussions or good decisions made after 10 o'clock at night. So I agree with Mr. Scott's suggestion of some kind, although I don't think this community is going to let us sit around a table. I think we'll be stuck at the dais. But I think robust discussion would be what we need to do. I just want to confirm a couple of pieces of information. The way I read it, your report on page 2, the Downey Civic Theater costs us $1 million a year roughly to run.
That is correct.
Okay. And the Art in Public Places program, is that a requirement from the state, or did the city create that on its own?
The city created that on its own, but we can have the community development director.
All I needed,
Okay.
I didn't know whether it was a state mandate program or whether it was a city program, which just didn't know. On the art sculptures list, what's the skating banana? What's its real name?
I believe that's On a Roll.
On a Roll. I need to be able to tell my sister what that was. And I am firmly in favor of a carpenter's statue, but Richard needs to be in it too.
I agree, and I'm sorry.
I know he's not dead yet.
Yes.
But if we're going to have a carpenter statue, it's Karen and Richard. One of them's playing drums, one of them's singing.
Yeah. If I may, I'm sorry. I think Richard and the record companies should pay for it, and I intend to ask the staff to reach out to Richard and the record companies as our first line of source for funding. Yeah, we're with you, and I do think he needs to be included with a small little keyboard, not a big piano. That's a lot of drums.
I will just comment that Richard, I don't know whether he still lives in the community. I think he may.
I don't think so.
He did for quite a while, and there's nothing more interesting than going to a Christmas program at an elementary school and finding out that the pianist is Richard Carpenter.
Madam Mayor, again, this is a really important discussion for all of us in our community and our residents, and because of it, and such a thorough report, Vania, thank you. I would, suggest that we table this item for further discussion because it is, past 10 o'clock, and it's been a very long meeting, and we've got to be able to have robust conversation about this.
I agree. I like the idea of the study session.
Yeah.
I don't know if the council would be open to having one. I think the format we should at least try. And is the public invited to the study session?
They have to be.
Excellent.
Yeah, they're regular meetings.
Yes.
Yeah, and then I would propose, echoing my colleagues' comments, that we table it and schedule a study session. Do you want that as a motion, Madam Mayor?
Do we need a motion?
Yeah. We would have to.
Okay, then I make a motion that we table this and schedule a study session around this topic.
And I second that motion.
Okay. Can I have everyone please vote?
The motion is approved unanimously.
Okay, the next item, discuss the city's current contributions. Is it that one? No. Discuss recognizing the Downey Arts Coalition as a legacy group in regards to the use of the Downey Theater. Interim City Manager Scott, is there a staff report?
Yes, Jason is giving this report.
Hi, Jason.
Good evening.
Yes.
I would suggest, Scott gets mad at me when I do that. I would suggest this is the appropriate item to just simply put right into the same study section and not.
I agree.
Not waste Jason's time giving us a report that we're going to wind up asking him to give us again.
Yes, thank you, Councilmember LaPlante.
That sounds like a good idea.
I agree with that. Are you making a motion?
Sure.
Okay, I'll second that.
If I could just be heard, the concern is, I believe the Downey Arts Coalition wants to move forward with their Tuesday museum program and was hoping to get it going in July. So that's my only concern is time. The subcommittee met on this, and I believe we are recommending that they be made a legacy group. Is that correct, Madam Mayor?
Yes, that is correct.
Yes. So I would just caution the time sensitivity for the Downey Arts Coalition, but I understand the time. It is past 10:13.
Jason, I'll go ahead and let you continue with this item.
Thank you, Madam Mayor and members of the City Council. Before you tonight is a discussion recognizing the Downey Arts Coalition as a legacy group in regards to the use of the theater. In 2017, the City Council approved the development of a theater rental credit program and grandfathered in two legacy groups, the Downey Symphony and the Rose Float Association. Currently, as a part of the city's annual budget for the theater, there's $40,000 set aside for the Downey Civic Theater Financial Assistance Program, which lets these groups and other groups that are Downey-based nonprofits submit applications and present programs to the subcommittee to have their costs waived. A non-legacy group can have their rental fees waived through the financial assistance program, while a legacy group can have the labor, box office, and other costs associated with the rental waived in addition to the rental fees. At the March 15th meeting, the Downey subcommittee meeting met, approved the recognizing of a legacy group in regards to the use of the Downey Theater. The Downey Arts Coalition is a community-based public 501c3 nonprofit made up of a group of volunteers, artists and advocates and supporters and partners that have produced art exhibits, music, theater, films, poetry festivals, educational workshops, and cultural events in the city. In order to become one of the groups, you need to be an established Downey organization and nonprofit performing arts organizations and 5 or more years of continuous theater rental, which the Downey Arts Coalition does meet. That does conclude my report. I can answer questions if the council has any.
Councilmember LaPlante?
How much are they asking for? Because it doesn't say.
Technically, they are not asking for anything at this time. They're asking to be considered a legacy group. And then there's an application process, which is included in your report, for them to put together the program. They do have a program that they're waiting to submit. It is a monthly open house, if you will, that will be on a Tuesday night at the theater. It'll encompass different arts in the lobby, some showcases around the outside. We've worked with the theater to do days that weren't currently already taken by either programming that we have or rentals that would hurt our revenue. So they have a program. I believe it's $25,000 is what they're going to end up asking for. But some of that, I believe, might be offset by some sponsorship opportunities that they're seeking.
So now let me ask you, Jason, again, there's in the report, it indicates currently as part of the city's annual budget, there is a budget of $40,000, right, for the Downey Civic Theater financial assistance. And does that mean then the Downey Arts Coalition would be taking $25,000 out of those 40?
There's currently 40, and they would come, and depending on the price tag for their event, they would come and put their application in, and the subcommittee would make that decision. Historically, the Downey Symphony has applied for $25,000 annually, and the Downey Rose Float Association has applied for about $8,000 annually, give or take, minus COVID years. So there would be not a full amount of $25,000 available for them. So I think that's what they're trying to offset, unless the council decided to increase that financial aid program to a higher amount.
So in a sense, they could potentially receive $7,000.
As it currently stands with the history of the other groups that have applied for funding, yes. And there are non-legacy groups that also apply for funding, but it's not as high of an amount.
What amounts do they typically range? Do we know?
Off the top of my head, we had a church that applied for a Christmas show that was about $3,500. Because remember, a non-legacy group also has to pay for certain costs that legacy groups do not. So they are only allowed to ask for a waiver of the rental fee of whatever their program is, but they still have to pay for the hard costs of staffing, reimbursement, as well as box office and equipment rentals.
Now, is there a sort of a cap as far as what the amount the legacy groups can request? And again, being very conscientious and also protective of our Downey Symphony, we historically, as you said, they've received $25,000. And so I just want to make sure that, again, we are looking at, there's only a finite number of dollars to, for the various organizations. So my question is, with would these, again, other organizations be cut out of this Civic Theater Financial Assistance Program?
To answer both your questions, there's not currently a cap per event. The $25,000 for the Downey Symphony depends on what their request is for the year. This year it covered 3 concerts or 3 shows that were a part of the middle school and the school program. And the second part of the answer would be potentially yes, it could impact the amount that would be available for other groups, depending what the subcommittee decided when these applications get brought to them.
And so, also, let me clarify this for me. It's rather late. Maybe you said it and I missed it. The Downey Arts Coalition, we know they have the second floor, the mezzanine, and they display great art by various artists. Now, they are scheduled, obviously, on days and times where the theater is not being utilized, correct? So being part of this legacy group, does that also give them, again, priority? And will that also impact our ability to capture that revenue from other?
Yes. So the program that we mentioned about the one night a month, that's a current application that they're ready to submit. They haven't submitted it because they were not approved to be a legacy group yet. So that day has kind of been talked about with the venue tech crew of what's available. And it would be the least impactful day to incoming revenues of other rentals and shows that we might have at the theater. There was originally some other dates thrown around, like a Thursday night or a Friday night. Obviously, those are problematic for us because of the amount of rentals and shows that we have. So a midweek date was thrown around to have the least amount of impact.
And do we do that again? Part of our the I don't know if it's a clause or these art groups. Again, that they realize they cannot compete for the revenue that is being generated by other paying programming.
They don't always recognize, but we do tell them.
Okay, so it is part of the clause of certain days that
correct,
would be,
and they understand that that's why we would not give up certain days when we could be bringing in a larger revenue. Now, if our calendar currently is empty, we don't have any of our own producing shows available, and we don't have any rentals in the short term, that might be something we'd be willing to discuss. But if we're talking 3 to 6 months out or 9 months out, a Thursday through Sunday is not something we would usually discuss.
Okay.
And I think I've seen that before, like with the Downey Rose Flow, where they've requested certain dates and we weren't able to give them those dates because it was being utilized for something else. So I have seen that happen. And if I'm understanding it correctly, it's $40,000 that is allocated, and it would be these 3 legacy groups who would then have to submit an application to receive some of that funding, and traditionally it's $25,000 that's provided to the the symphony.
Yes, it could be more than these three groups. These three groups are the ones who are approved to have a full waiver, which includes the hard costs of rental as well as staff costs. Whereas the other groups who apply, they still have to pay for staff costs and hard costs. They would only get a waiver of the rental.
Yeah. Councilmember LaPlante?
Explain to me how opening the theater for a few hours on a weekday night would cost $2,000. Because if they're going to do it every month and $25,000, my 8th grade math wizardry says that's $2,000.
Roughly, we have a worksheet that we have for them. Part of that is the time of their time to do it, as well as the days previous to come in and set up the show, to curate it and do some other things that are a lot with it. It's not necessarily all charges from us, but we have a worksheet we can provide you with the exact breakdown of the $25,000. That hasn't come before the SIT subcommittee yet. So if they are approved as a legacy group, they would then bring that to the subcommittee just to make sure that gets approved for the current proposal that they have.
I'm sorry, but that seems outlandish. To have something up for one night for people to see at $2,000, you know, maybe we can see how many people come once. You know, we had an extraordinarily successful event with Corazon. The place was full. It cost $3,500. Great. I'm not so sure you're going to get a few hundred people even to come see an art show. You know, we need to think through how we want to do art in this community too. That's why we have the State Gallery, which is in a miserable location for people to go see anything. Yeah, there's no parking. That's why I can't support this tonight, because I think we need to get a comprehensive plan of art in Downey. And this, as much as I'd love to tell them that they can have it in July, if they started in September or October, the world won't end. They haven't been doing it.
Well, no dollar amount has been approved for the Downey Arts Coalition, correct?
Correct. At the last subcommittee meeting, they provided a sample proposal. I think there was still some fundraising they were going to look at before we had a complete amount. I don't know that we've seen a complete after the sponsorship.
Was the Downey Arts Coalition ever part of the legacy group?
They were not.
No.
The two that were grandfathered in were only the two that we mentioned. They have supported events in the past. Glen Fest was something that they supported, as well as some other events. And they always did that as a third-party nonprofit, and now they want to become the legacy group to host their own events.
Councilmember?
Was the Downey Art League a legacy group?
Not that I'm aware of.
Okay. But the Downey Arts Coalition, my understanding is that they merged with the league, which was around since 1967. Is that correct?
I don't know for certain.
Okay.
I'm not too familiar with their history.
All right. But in the report, it seems clear that there's no fiscal impact if we approve them as a legacy group today.
Not at this time, no.
Okay.
You want your
I want to make the motion to have the Downey Arts Coalition as a legacy group.
I'm going to second that.
Okay, please vote.
The motion is approved with Councilmember LaPlante voting no.
That was the final item for the evening. Interim City Manager Scott, do you have any comments?
Yeah, I'll give him the time. I'll just say that I'm delighted to have a chance to be here with you all. I appreciated the nice presentation to Mr. Livas tonight. I will do my best to fill not only the shoes, but the chair. And I'm looking forward to a chance to work with this excellent staff, and I look forward to getting to know the community. So thank you very much.
Thank you. And thank you for joining us here this evening on your first council meeting.
My pleasure.
The city council meeting is now adjourned in memory of El Monte Police Department Corporal Michael Domingo Paredes and Officer Joseph Anthony Santana killed in the line of duty. And is it, Councilmember LaPlante, how do you say the first name?
Seidel.
Seidel.
From Fiddler on the Roof, that's who he was named after.
Karaki?
Paras Karaki.
Karaki. Mayor Pro Tem of the City of Duarte and 21-year member of the Duarte City Council. The victims of the Ukraine crisis and the lives lost due to COVID-19. A moment of silence. Meeting adjourned.